Welcome back. This is Straight Talk, and we are on our topic tonight, and it deals with Africa and all of the things that's going on between Mali, Niger, and Burkina Faso. And I am pleased to take note that what I said less than a half a year ago is now happening. It's going to happen in record pace. No bullshit, no salt and pepper added to the mix. No sugar just to try to make it more palpable. It is what it is. One of the things that I will be talking about is Traore tonight. And to be honest with you, the man is on point. You see, when a person's will is stronger than their fear, it will and it must manifest in that person's people's lives. It has to. It is godly ordained. It is a must for it to happen. And I really want you guys to really see what I've been saying all the time. Black man, black woman cannot be stopped. Your ancestors are like seeds in the ground, buried deeply within you, that they would want to try to kill them. They would want to try to assassinate whatever future you have in this present moment. And if you allow them to do that, you deserve it. You deserve nothing because you're not paying attention to our ancestors' will. Will to overcome, will to thrive, and will to succeed. There is no weapon formed against you, black man, black woman, other people that can stop you from being and doing what you want to do. It is being played out in real time. And I'm going to connect these two, what's going on in Burkina Faso, Mali, and Niger, and extrapolate that out to all of the African countries. And what that means once all of Africa has come online to take back their power. Daddy's home. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about what is happening. And I'm going to show you a picture. I've been trying to find it today. I don't know what the hell I did with it or whatever the case may be. But you have to deal with Gulliver's Travel. You know, like the guy comes along and he's tied down by a lot of little people. You come across a village of small people and they have them tied down by thread, but to them, since they're so small, it looks like a rope. And just imagine this to be a black guy, right? The father of all humanity, tied down by little men, little women we know as white. But in reality, Kaya la boca, cállate. But in reality, um, these strings are strings of or threads of despair, wanting, fear of white people. They've been trying to tell us for the longest of time that we're nothing, that we will never be anything other than what we are, slaves to the system. Hey, and it's important to understand that you are the system that they fear. There's no ends, there's no ifs, there's no buts about it. And in the video, not the video, in the photo that I was trying to find, you see the black man rising up. And you see all of the little white men saying, he's getting up. Oh, we're in trouble. Extrapolate that out, my people. Hold on. Yeah, I didn't even turn that on. Did I? Hey, what's up, man? We got it. Hold on. I didn't even turn that on in order to have you see that. Hold on.
What's up, bro?
Yeah, you got it. Hold on for
Yeah,
a
you
second.
got it. Hold on for a second. Okay.
Okay, so now here we are. So let me go back to that picture. So this is the one I was talking about. So I apologize for not bringing that up on full view. But this is the situation of black people. Being surrounded with all these white people, little people, who think they're doing something. These threads are like gigantic ropes to them, but it's nothing to us. But they made us feel in our minds that these threads cannot be broken. And I'm here to tell you they have been broken already. It's a matter of standing up. And this is what white folks fear. They can't win against us. They never have and they never will. The only thing that they've been able to do was to trick us into believing that the spades we have in our hand are all in their hand and that we have no spades. We have all of the resources, all of the manpower, all of the brain. Why do you think America is as powerful as it is? It was black people. We created every military equipment that they got. And for what I'm hearing, a lot of Africans that are outside of Africa are coming back to Burkina Faso to help. Engineer, technician, you name it. And it's going to be one. And I'm here to tell you, and I do have an example of this, uh, that Africa going to invent a weapon that would be terrifying. You've seen nothing yet. This is just the beginning. And once we get a taste of power, political power, economic power, spiritual power, and physical power, you're not going to want to go back. You're not going to want to go back to sleep, being inactive, not being empowered. The power has always been there for black folks. We cannot be stopped. The only people or person that can stop us is you and us together. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about that. So tonight we're going to be covering Traore and my buddy here, Elias, in order to elucidate on what's going on in Burkina Faso. And now we are seeing that Burkina Faso, Mali, Niger are going to form one country, one currency, and one head of state. And you know that's going to be Traore. And so, without further ado, I just wanted to uh, highlight that. And before I bring on my buddy here, Elias, what what's going on, man? Can you? Unmute yourself.
My bad. Long time, man. How you been?
Yeah. What's going on with you?
Man, same stuff, different toilet, man. We done covered so many news cycles, man, since the last time we spoke. It's crazy, right?
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
And it's all
Before we get in Traore, you see all these volcanoes and eruptions
yeah,
all over the world, man. We had an
yes, sir.
earthquake in
Well,
Idaho last week.
you ain't seen shit yet. You ain't
Yeah,
seen shit.
I agree.
What's that mountain in Seattle?
Mount St. Helens.
Mountain Helen. Okay.
Yeah, if that
You
blow,
know,
whoo,
right. It's going to blow. Not only that, just imagine the one in California.
St.
Hold on,
Andrews.
put your Michael. So the one in California did 50,000 square miles of damage when it happened. I think in 1919, somewhere around. I don't know. And then you have the Madrid fault. It did 1 million square miles of damage. That's 200 times the size I don't want in California. And there are 15 nuclear power plants that's sitting right on top of that fault line. And we just talked about Mount St. Helens. It would be the most destructive force that has ever hit America, and it will cover, I think, no less than 6 states, killing millions of people, burying them, if not over 30 feet of ash. Now imagine all of this hate that white folk got. It might sound crazy, it might sound summer plum, but I'm here to tell you, God is just. And all of the evilness, all of the wretchedness, all of the bad things that these white folks have been doing is coming home to roost. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. And they, the government, when I say they, will not have an answer for it. You know who's going to have the answer for it? Who's going to be saved in America for the one last time? And we take it over? These black folks, black people. See, because white folks have a weak mind. And I'm gonna show you, well, not just you, but everybody that's gonna be watching. This black guy, he won the mayorship in Camilla, Georgia. A real small town, about 10,000 people. And he won. And the thing is that white folks are so upset. Now, this is a 75% black city. How the fuck do you have a chief of police white? Damn near all the cops are white. And everybody that's working in the city government are white. I don't get that. So what I did was, um, I called the guy. I wasn't able. I put in a friend request for on Facebook, and I was telling him, look, why are you guys still going around in circles? The 1866 Civil Rights Act stopped all of that bullshit white folks trying to do because they're scared. White men got to where they are because they were stopped by the 1866 Civil Rights Act and the Enforcement Act that up to this point in time today, 6/7/25, those acts, Enforcement Act and the Civil Rights Act 1866 has been not nullified at all, but have been stopped to be inactive by white men because they know once we get a hold of that, it's over. There's no ifs, there's no end, there's no pussyfooting around and sliding from foot to foot and side to side. It is over. A lot of judges in that county or in that city of Camilla and every place else on the continent of America. The police, the city, the judges, that's all playing a part in the cover up of the election fraud that on their part, not on the black guy's part. Mayor, damn, I forgot, but you're here, Mel Owens, Mayor Owens of Camilla, Georgia. The the Department of Justice was created to protect black folk. The FBI was protected for the protection of black folks. Before that, we had the National Guard, Federal National Guard, that came through the South and stopped all of the rummaging of the federal law and the violation that was taking place. And so white men from 1880 on threatened the president and called him to turn over the rights of black people to be protected and to have order within the voting system. And white folk been fighting, been violating the 14th Amendment, the 13th and the 15th Amendment, and every other thing that they can imagine, and did. And this is the reason why white folk and white men in particular are behind the eight ball. I told Mayor Owens, call the Department of Justice, enforce the Enforcement Act, and the other thing too, bonds for the win, which I'm going to put in here. Hold on for a second. Because, okay, here we go. So, on last week's show, I was covering it as to how important it is to use it, because it is the shotgun in the face, brother Elias, of all white folks doing all illicit shit. Not only that, you can bring up the fact that this is anti-Semitism. We the real Jews, motherfucker, hiding behind the mask of Christianity or Islam or all of that. This case is so fucking easy to win. It is just astonishing. But, my brother and I, Issa Israel, he's a civil rights attorney. We're going to get on top of this for all you dumb niggas in America who don't know what the fuck to do. And we're going to get it done. This is so fucking easy to win, and people don't know what the fuck to do. It's just mind-boggling because it's as if they're blinders on and they have this fake-ass fucking white Jesus in front of them, mesmerizing them, and they don't want to, these gatekeepers letting that secret out, bro. So you have anything you want to say about that before we move on?
Not really. I'm just amazed at all the things I've been hearing, man. Yeah, you spot on with what you just said, so I don't have nothing to add at the moment. We can go to the next topic if you're ready.
Well, tonight, we're going to be covering Traore. What that means systemically, economically, politically, spiritually, and physically for Africa and the African spiritual system that we've been a part of and have created, that our ancestors are screaming, crying for us to come back home. Because the answer been there all the time. And the answer is real simple. UNITY. UNITY. We cannot, white folk can't beat us. They've been bullshitting around, blowing smoke up our ass, confusing us, and we don't even see how silly these motherfuckers are. They're like kids in grown up body. They don't have a mentality to run shit. They have the mentality of a 5-year-old child, and they run it into the ground all the fucking time. Every time. It has never been a time that we have civilized these people 3 times in Egypt, Greece, and Rome, and now that when they took over in Greece and Egypt, they only stayed in power for 150 years. In Greece and Rome, 150 years. And now, 150 years. You know what I mean? So it's like the world is ours. And we're going to be going into the deeper parts of that. So I'm pretty sure you got your own ideas about that, and I want to hear them. Hold on. Let me, yeah, I got that on full screen. So let's go to the, hold on. Let me make sure I get this right. I'm going to go to the first one, which is dealing with the Black Mirror of Camilla. And once we are done there, give a little bit of comment if you want to comment on it. All right, we'll be right back.
Black mayor, 2 previous officials of a city, deep South Georgia, all arrested wrongfully. for election fraud at that. Put up the picture full mass. I went to this city. It's called Camilla, Georgia. It is in deep South Georgia. I went there about 7 years ago when I was the political correspondent for CBS News Atlanta. I'm going to give you the update on what they have done to this mayor and to the remaining city officials. I will give you context to what the law is and judicial ruling. But before I do that, I'm going to take you to a portion of my coverage of Camilla, Georgia, roughly 7 years ago, when they elected the first black male mayor in its history. Here's what happened. For those who may not know it, what's happening in Camilla, Georgia? Well, back in December, I began boycotting my city council to protest invidious racial segregation and discrimination within my city. The mayor gave me a letter. Well, my letter is generally asking anyone within this jurisdiction in my capacity as mayor to cooperate with you. So I took this letter to City Hall. Well, I have a letter from the mayor who is encouraging cooperation, okay, because of the allegations about racism, bigotry, prejudice in the system. Is there racism, prejudice, and bias in Camilla?
Not I know of. I've been working here 60 years.
Have you heard the allegations about the city cemetery being split between black people on one side, white people on another side, and a fence that split the two? Are you aware of that?
I am.
You said you were getting complaints from citizens?
Absolutely, yes.
You should be talking to the citizens.
Oh, I have. Is there racism, prejudice from city government toward residents of Camilla, Georgia?
And I ask if you will talk to Miss Brenda Cross, okay?
Don't buy another pair of glasses until you've seen what this new invention can do. These self-adjustable...
Okay.
We're talking about citizens in Camilla that have made these allegations
But I'm
against.
not in a position to answer those questions, and once again, I'll be glad to get you a meeting scheduled with our city manager.
Okay, where's the city manager at today?
He doesn't work on Friday.
Do you know any racist white people in Camilla, Georgia?
Not that I'm aware of.
There are no.
I've never run across them. I'll put it that way.
You have never come in contact with any racist white person ever in Camilla, Georgia.
No.
Can you read this letter, ma'am? I have a letter from the mayor.
Thank you, sir. City manager, city clerk.
They're complaining about government. Do you not work for government?
Yes, I do.
Okay. Are you willing to answer my questions?
No.
Was the cemetery actually segregated, black and white?
You would need to fill out an open records request, and you need to talk to Mr. Stunts.
I need to fill out an open records request to find out if black people are buried next to white people.
Yes, sir.
This city is 70% African American.
Now look, I do not understand why do you want to be buried with these fucking animals that grow tails. I just don't know why you want to.
That's not the point, bro. The point is, if that's a small town.
Go ahead.
If that's a small town and there's no close by cemeteries, you probably got to drive a half hour to the next one. So people might not want to bury. I'm not saying I agree with it. I'm not saying you're wrong. I'm saying you got to understand these people may be poor and don't have many cars or transportation to get around. So to bury somebody 3 towns over that take a half hour, 40 minutes to get to in a car that you got to rent or borrow, and in a time of death, you might not want to do that. And it may be some reason for that. That's why I'm saying that. Not because I agree. I want to be buried next to some racists.
Yeah, all right, okay. So let's continue on. Hold on. Where was that? Oh, here we go.
How many black police officers do you have? Do you guys have more than one black police officer?
Yes, we have 2 recruits that are going to the academy right now.
You have 2 black police officers.
Yes, sir. We have 1 black police officer and 2 recruits.
So I went outside of the police precinct. There were 2 officers leaving the building, and I approached these officers. I really just want to talk to the chief of police. No, I can't talk to the chief? Cops running away from me. That's a first. I can't talk to the chief of police. Okay. All right. Everybody's ignoring me, but I got a letter from the mayor. We were able to make a difference in that community, but upon arrival, yes, the city-owned cemetery had a fence that separated where black people could be buried and where white people could be buried. I saw with my own eyes. The place where white people can be buried looked like a slice of heaven. Black folk could be buried on the other side, and it was, well, deteriorating. The city manager ended up tearing that fence down like a coward at 3 a.m. in the morning to avoid publicity. When the mayor was elected, they took away his powerful purse, meaning he received no money. They also would not give him keys to City Hall, so he had to wait for somebody to open up City Hall in order to go to work. That was the insanity happening then. The insanity that is happening today. Same town, Camilla, Georgia. They have arrested the new mayor, Mr. Kevin Owens. Put him up full mask. On May 28th, a reminder, May 28th, 2025, Camilla, Georgia, Mayor Kevin Owens, the interim city manager, Cheryl Ford, and former election superintendent, Renette Williford, were all arrested on charges of election fraud and conspiracy. This unprecedented move represents more than a local political dispute. It marks the latest chapter in Southwest Georgia's 157-year struggle against systemic voter oppression, suppression, and repression, with judicial complicity in corporate and political power structures. So to fully grasp the gravity, and I wrote an op-ed, Roland got you all to check it out, but to fully grasp the gravity of this moment, we must confront Camilla's blood-stained history of racial terrorism and analyze these charges through the prism of federal voting rights. These are laws, Georgia's election code, and a disturbing national pattern of weaponizing legal systems against black electoral empowerment. It was only a few years ago, in 2018, that the city of Camilla, which is located in Deep South Georgia, can remove the fence that separated black and white residents in the city-owned cemetery. The city, at that time, also did not employ one black police officer. They didn't have anyone actually employed at that time that was black, even though the city is majority African-American. Official press release.
I canceled my Midjourney subscription because this AI does everything I need for a one-time cost.
Came from Mr. Dwayne Burley. He's the mayor pro tem. He is the second in charge of city council. In his press release, he says, quote, today, Mayor Kevin Owens, interim city manager, Cheryl Ford, and former election superintendent, Renette Williford, were arrested and charged with election fraud and conspiracy to commit election interference. The arrests have shocked the community and raised serious concerns about the ongoing targeting of public officials who upheld the integrity of our local electoral process. We have been informed that none of the three officials will be allowed to appear before a judge until Monday at 9 a.m. A delay for which Magistrate Judge Bubba Lamb has not provided clear justification. These arrests appear politically motivated and retaliatory. Central to the controversy is the candidacy of Mr. Ventura Pollard, who was deemed qualified to run for office by both Mrs. Williford and Ms. Ford, despite Judge Gary McCorvey initially ordering Mr. Pollard to remove his name from the ballot. Now, I got more. Remember, this is the press release from the mayor pro tem, city official, explaining to the world, here's what has happened. He goes on to say, when that effort failed, he directed the election superintendent to forcibly remove Pollard from the race. After Mrs. Williford refused to comply with what many believed to be an unlawful order, the judge recused himself. Judge McClain was assigned to the case. Judge McClain decided to escalate the pressure by threatening to arrest Mr. Pollard if he was not removed. Armed deputies were sent by the local sheriff to serve Mrs. Williford with the directive, an act widely viewed as intimidation. November 4th, 2024. Both Renette Williford and Cheryl Ford decided to resign their positions. On that same day, the city council came together under the advice of it seemingly is the attorney and possibly someone from the Secretary of State's office. They said, listen, it's best not to proceed with the election to avoid incurring a fine due to the absence of a certified election superintendent. You don't have a certified election superintendent anymore. Why? Because you don't ran them out of town. Like you do everybody else. They resigned. They left. The mayor of a small city in Georgia and two former election officials were placed under arrest, jailed on felony charges stemming from their efforts last November to halt a local election after one of the mayor's allies was disqualified from a city council race. The mayor, Kevin Owens, was being held at the Mitchell County Jail on Friday, 2 days after a grand jury indicted him on felony charges of election interference and a misdemeanor count of conspiring to commit election fraud. Also jailed were the city's former election superintendent, Renette Williford, and her former deputy superintendent, Cheryl Ford. These are older individuals who just work for the city. They're working a government job. They've never been in any kind of trouble like this, not trying to commit conspiracy, fraud, or nothing else. They had a conscience. They had a heart. They had a moral compass. And instead of doing the non-noble thing, which would be keep your job and don't do it, they said we would simply resign. We resign. Respectfully, we resign. They gave it up. Instead of doing what's corrupt or protesting the order, they just said we resign. Wasn't good enough for them. Wasn't good enough for the powers that be. Also jailed, obviously, the superintendent and the former deputy superintendent and election superintendent. Chaos roiled special elections for a pair of the city council seats in November of last, and amid a long-standing legal battle over local politics in the town. But it's a farming community. It's about 5,000 people in rural Southwest Georgia. I know Mayor Owens. The case revolved around Ventura Pollard. This is a city council removed from office last summer after a judge ruled he was not a Camilla resident. So what has happened? The residents of Camilla, majority African American, voted in Pollard. Pollard is removed by a judicial order, but voted in by democratic process. Pollard ran to regain the position in fall in a special election. Another judge ordered Pollard disqualified and ruled that votes for him should be discarded. In addition, the city was ordered to post signs saying votes for Pollard would not be counted. Once again, judicial orders. On November 4th, the day before Election Day, both Williford and Ford quit and resigned as the city's two top election officials. The elections were held, albeit several hours behind schedule, after Superior Court Judge Heather Lanier appointed new supervisors to oversee voting and ordered polls to remain open until nearly 4 a.m. Elections for president and Congress and other offices were not affected. Now, here's the context, okay? The voting or access to the polls, it did not stop for any federal election. Still go there, vote for who you want to vote for that. The 4 a.m. thing is about a Georgia statute that says if you have any issue, which we do every election day, and the poll has to close, you have to give people that equal opportunity of time that same day, no matter how much time it is. All right. If you close for 7 hours, you got to give folks 7 more hours to vote. All right. Very simple statute. Now, the mayor utilized his power granted to him by council in order to stop the city election because they had no election supervisor in order to certify the election. Once a judge that same day, because the other side made a motion, the judge same day appointed 2 individuals. Now you have someone who is appointed in order to do so. What happened then? Well, the polls open back up. That's what happened. Now, the mayor and both of those resigned officials have been arrested. They are out now. Mayor Owens blamed the local upheaval on racial politics, saying that Pollard, who is black, was targeted by white residents trying to wrest power from the black majority. The city of Camilla is nearly 3/4 black. The Georgia NAACP said in a statement on Facebook that it was, quote, deeply alarmed by the allegations of election interference, as well as the arrest of Owens and the 2 former election officials, all whom are black. We are working.
When I tried this morning earlobe trick to help my memory, everyone thought I was crazy. But when they saw how much I changed,
were shocked that there were written indictments, said Gerald Griggs. Gerald Griggs, a good friend of mine, president of the Georgia NAACP and a noted attorney. Quote, we are still in a fact-finding mode to see what actually happened. When this went down, I did an op-ed in Rolling Out that same day. I spoke to attorney and Georgia NAACP president Gerald Griggs, because we remember from the story you just saw of me 6-7 years ago of how bad things were in Camilla then. Well, see, that's external. That's external. You know, cemetery is external, but it goes to a deeply held bias, a deeply held racism that exists inside of hearts and minds of individuals who are there. It is about power, control. So now that the politics have transformed, the judiciary has decided to become the de facto leaders in this political melee. All right, Jackson, thoughts here?
Yeah, well, I mean, how much effort and intentionality has to go behind a city or a town that has 70% black population and they ain't running nothing? You know, like, well, they just don't want to be a part of nothing. Of course not. This is systemic. But the thing that really stood out to me, just seeing that, you know, those clips, you've been in the field forever, but also just these, like, what they really wanted to say to you, and you know what they wanted to say to you. When he was asking, you know what they wanted to say to you. But all of them were like, oh, nothing to see here. I don't know about it. You're going to have to go ask, talk to the people. All of them looked very annoyed because they know it's intention. You know, they're holding on to the power that they have. But it to me, it's just really as straightforward as that. It was pretty jarring to see all of them just flat out act like you crazy or you tripping, that this town is 70% black, but they got 2 police officers. You like, you got more than one? Yeah, we do. We got 2.
Right,
you know what I'm saying? Like, we got a whole 2 up in here. So yeah, no, this is definitely glad that we're covering this, but I wouldn't want to live in that town, that's for sure.
Yeah, and ironically, when we fact checked them on the 2, they did not have 2 cops at that time. They had 2 recruits, and those recruits happened after I first reported on it before going to the city. And I did not meet, shake hands with one black person at City Hall because they did not exist there.
Are they Confederates?
It was wild, man. So we'll stay on top of this. Obviously, bring you updates as they come.
All right, you heard it right there, bro. Now this is the one I haven't. You can see it came up now. Might as well just talk about it. We have to search oceans of reality to find my Lord. Us. It said, and it's this one is kicking this white guy, and he's saying, "Get back, monkey boy." And he said, "Hey, this is some real shit, man." And you know, it pains me to the point where we don't even see our own greatness. We've been tricked into believing bullshit. But those days are over with. So, any thought?
I watch Dr. Richie a lot, and so I'm not surprised. Listen, I lived in Atlanta for a while, and when I was there was a town in Georgia, not far from Atlanta, not maybe an hour ride away, called Noonan, Georgia. And when I was there, this is about 10 years ago, they had just it was a big deal because that town had integrated the high school prom. It was still segregated in 2014-15. So when you hear stuff like this, a lot of people say about Georgia, outside of Atlanta and Savannah, it's just like it was in the 40s and 50s. Other than the modern cars and maybe redone buildings and stuff like that. But the mentality of them crackers in that state, once you leave the Atlanta area, is like it was in back in the day. Most of Georgia is a sundown state, not towns. Sundown state, most of it. Of course, when you're in the Atlanta area, because there's so many black people, they can't really do it like that. But once you leave those areas, sundown town. So that don't surprise me one bit.
But I was going to say, yeah, okay, there you go. I was going to say too that it's time, man. Not only in Africa, and we're waking up, or they are waking up. That's going to spill over into every other area where black folks are, and we're just going to get stronger and stronger and stronger and stronger. There's no doubt in my mind about that, right? So let me play the devil's advocate with you. So does it really matter what white folks think and what white folks do? And they've been illegitimately ruling America for the last 150 years because of the downplay of the Civil Rights Act and the enforcement acts that are there to help black folks fight against the wrongs that have been going on for 150 years. So my question is to you, even in we know it's still on the books. It's not going nowhere. It's federal law. With that being said, who do you think is behind the gatekeepers from not telling what really need to be done and how to stop it cold turkey? I'll put my mic on.
I believe the Grays, because we just had the Pope die a few months ago, right? Okay, the Pope died. I've heard Dr. Phil Valentine say that I could never verify it myself. But we know we have a white Pope, the one we see. Then we have a black Pope. And then we have a gray Pope. And supposedly, and I heard Dr. Phil Valentine say this, supposedly the gray Pope is a gray alien. And he's supposed to be the one that determines what these white folk do and most black folk. But then you have over them the black nobility, which are black people who hang out in Morocco and they run the world. And from what I understand, they're also reptilians and they can shapeshift. So they may be white people that can turn black or vice versa. And then on top of them is AI. So that's my answer from my experience and what I've collected over the years.
What does the AI got to do with it?
AI is there's supposedly an AI entity. I can't say person or machine or whatever that oversees all of that. But what I believe oversees everything on the planetary level is the Galactic Federation. That's what I believe.
Okay. All right. So let's go on and let me see where we're gonna go here. So this one deals with Chikambuso, who created a car that doesn't need to be wired up, gasoline, and all of that. It runs on its own power called MSED. I forget what it means. So it's only 8 minutes long, and we'll be right back.
It's finally happening. Maxwell Chikumbutso's greener power energy is being secretly incorporated into military tech. This is big news. The incident was noticed during the last battle with the jihadists. Over 1,000 militants were neutralized. Among the tools of war, some strange military vehicles built in Ouagadougou, supervised by Russian engineers. But something else was inside it. One of the vehicles used was unlike anything seen before. It was coded ZT Mamba, built in Ouagadougou by Russian-backed teams. It moved silently, operated for long hours. No refuel, no recharge, and absolutely no engine sound.
Hold on.
Necesitas llevar tu negocio online. GoDaddy te lo pone fácil con herramientas intuitivas y
At first, it looked electric. A soldier who rode inside confirmed it. He thought it was EV grade, but close observation proved otherwise. He couldn't find any port, no charging inlet, no fuel cap, just smooth, sealed armor. That was strange. Even stranger, it powered radar, launched drones, and maintained satellite uplinks. All off-grid, all without pause. He later whispered to another officer, "This one is not diesel. This one is not battery. What is it running on?" The reply was silence. The type that means, don't ask, just observe. Then forget. The rumor spread that this was it. Where was the power coming from? Burkina Faso's military recently partnered with Russian defense advisors. They've been rearming fast. Drones, armored pickups, counter-IED trucks. But this new one, it's different. Codenamed Project Garba. Reports say it's the size of a regular armored personnel carrier. About 6.5 meters long, 2.6 meters wide, weighs under 9 tons, carries 8 men, and a mounted drone command post. Inside, no traditional engine, no diesel tank. The onboard sensors, the turret, and all systems are powered by a silent core. No wiring linked to external sources. Now here's where it gets strange. A captured jihadist during interrogation asked, "What machine was that? We shot at it for hours. It didn't stop and it made no sound." He added, "It floated, not literally, but it glided. No engine brakes, no heat signature." Soldiers confirmed this. One engineer on site said, "I opened the undercarriage. I didn't see a combustion. No cylinder head, no gearbox. Just a solid-state chamber, blue pulsing core, sealed." Maxwell built this first. Years ago, he demonstrated a wireless TV, powered from 500 meters away, then a drone, no battery, flying, streaming video, running on air. The same tech, he said, could power homes, cities, cars, and weapons. That's what makes this real. Many laughed at him, called him a con man, but he was never arrested, never sued, never exposed as fake, just silenced. Then his name vanished. But now it's back in the fields of Burkina Faso, in a battlefield where no recharge stops, and yet experts now say this may be a modified GPM unit, 500 kilowatts continuous, frequency modulated, cooled by ionic phase tubes, emitting under 5% thermal waste, no combustion, zero noise, 100% stealth, perfect for war, perfect for Africa. Imagine a convoy of trucks, never needing fuel, never emitting smoke, immune to EMP attacks and completely off-grid. That's what the Chikumbutso design promises. The only way to disable it is by physical destruction. Satellite images showed the vehicle after the battle. It was stationed near a Russian tent, antennas up, engineers in hazmat gear surrounding it, not touching the core, just monitoring. Someone leaked a document from within the engineering circle. It mentioned EMR drive. That's not standard Russian tech. It matches Maxwell's energy resonance drive, presented for patent in 2016. Coincidence or collaboration? Whatever it is, we know little. Burkina Faso has been under heavy sanctions. Russia is helping with alternatives, and rumors say a Zimbabwean scientist flew into Ouagadougou some weeks ago, name undisclosed, but a photo surfaced. Tall cap, glasses, looks like Max, still unconfirmed.
El Ministerio de Economía de la República Dominicana ha anunciado el inicio de un nuevo proyecto destinado a mejorar.
That's when whispers of Maxwell Chikumbutso came up, his greener power machine developed in Zimbabwe. He once said it could power anything.
If you see my groundbreaking technologies, I'm not trying to boast, no, but our technology can work in anything. It can work in a car. It can work in a TV. It can work in a light bulb.
It was tested by Foster Gamble, the owner of Thrive, and was certified to work. Discreet, wireless, off-grid, 24/7 self-sustaining power.
Not only had the machine outlasted the expected battery life, but the batteries were still fully charged. This proved that the device was being powered from an unknown energy source.
Maxwell claimed it produced 500 kilowatts, with no fossil fuel, no sunlight, no wind, no chemical battery, just pure pulsed energy, emitted by rotating fields, magnetic resonance, and scalar frequencies. Impossible? Maybe, till now. What is confirmed, the vehicle outlasted 4 others. Traditional trucks broke down, batteries died. But Garba kept running. Even after 17 hours of field deployment, jihadist tech couldn't jam it. Drone scramblers failed. Even after it was hit by an RPG, the systems remained live. No visible cables were damaged. Could this be the first ever battlefield use of wireless, self-powered energy? And if so, why the secrecy? Some say it's to avoid sabotage. Others say Max was forced into silence. But insiders hint that he may be working in partnership. Quietly, why? Because the world isn't ready. Think of what this would mean. Africa using indigenous tech, outpacing China, outpacing Europe, running silent ops on green power. No oil dependency. That breaks too many systems, and yet it's here. Seen, used, proven. Analysts from Chad, Nigeria, and Ghana are watching closely. If confirmed, this will change warfare. Imagine tanks powered wirelessly, fighter jets recharging midair, or border outposts never going dark. Maxwell's greener power machine would be the route, a dream once dismissed, now hiding in plain sight. Still, skeptics remain. They say this is all exaggerated, that the vehicle used a hidden battery, that the Russian engineers just used advanced fuel cells. But no one has seen those fuel cells, no burn marks, no gas emissions, no heat residue, just a pulsing hum and endless operation. Even now, the Garba vehicle is stationed 80 kilometers north. Only at night, guarded by 3 squads, covered in tarpaulin, no press allowed, but drone footage. The internet exploded. Hash Maxwell did it first as trending again. Questions are flying. Is this the future of warfare? Did Elon Musk hear of this? Was Maxwell's tech the reason for new Starlink beam tests? Why did Japan suddenly invest $7.5 billion in space energy transmission? Is the West late, or are they watching? One thing is clear now. Maxwell's name is back. The battlefield said it all. He built it first, and someone is using it. But again, we are not sure. All these are unconfirmed. If you have any information, feel free to share with us.
All right. Hold on, let me get out of here. You have any thoughts about that, man?
Kind of interesting. I think I said this on this show before, brother. Remember the brother that passed away, that got killed at the Top supermarket in Buffalo, New York, maybe 2 years ago?
Yeah, I don't remember that one. What was that about?
Oh man, it was some racist dude went to Buffalo, New York to look for black people so he could shoot up a place where they was at. He went to a supermarket, and the brother in the supermarket was an ex-cop, but he was working at a supermarket as a security guard. And when he saw the guy killing people. He shot and he got killed in the process. And his name was Aaron Salter Jr. You can look him up. Aaron Salter Jr. He was a retired cop, but by heart, he was an inventor. And he had invented a car with a patent pending with a car that ran on air and water as well. So they're all over the place, bro.
Okay.
About maybe a month ago, I put a list.
Well, my comment is really. Yeah, but put the mic in, bro. My comment is really simple. It's this. If this one guy from, I forget what country, Chikambuso, I think he's from Kenya, something like that. But anyway, that one man created that. Hold on. That one man created that machine. What will it produce later? No oil, no gas, no petroleum, no engine. You get where I'm coming with this? And a lot of black folks or Africans that are outside of Africa, I'm coming back home to help her, our motherland, to get up on her feet. Which means there's a brain drain throughout Europe and America. And I am just beside myself as to what kind of weapons on the genius of black folks going to be coming out of Africa. It's going to be mind blowing. And if it wasn't for black folks, we would not have no nuclear bomb or other bombs or drones. There's a black guy in America who worked for Top Secret, who worked for some military company, right? And he's the one who created the drones. All of the top drone ideas came from this one man. 4 PhDs and 3 masters. You hear me? Ridiculous, man. I would have stopped at 1 PhD.
So you saying Hidden Figures Part 2, huh?
What is it?
Hidden Figures Part 2.
Yeah, probably. Because, you know.
Or Part 100.
Huh? I didn't hear you. I didn't hear you.
I said, or Part 100.
Oh, okay, yeah. Well, we got a lot of changes that are coming on the scene that's just going to revolutionize the world and turn its head, how you say it? Turn the world on top of its head or something like that, however it goes. So, man, it's going to be one thing after another, but good for us, bad for them. That's what I'm trying to say. And, okay, quit it. So let's get into the next video, and we'll be right back. I'm going to go 13 and 13.
Everyone provoking God. How dare you depict an image of a black woman standing on the head of a white man? That's you provoking God. This is controversial. But the initial one wasn't. When it is that, when it is therefore depicted as a black person, a black man or a black woman, and there is a white person trampling over that person, right? The statue, nobody is complaining. There's nothing wrong. The world continues to go round and round, right? But all of a sudden now, when you do the opposite, now there is a problem. As we have seen in the last few years now, the energy on the continent, and I would even say in the Black community globally, has been drastically changing. We are starting to see a shift in the mindset and the consciousness in our people. More and more people deconstructing and decolonizing all of the BS that we were taught, unlearning and relearning, and I'm here for it. And it's been amazing to watch and such a lovely time to be alive, I would say, as an African person, as a Black person, having to witness this ton of events, right? In light of that, I came by this video yesterday on TikTok that really encapsulates just how much things are shifting on the continent. And I could not wait to share this video with you guys because the tables are turning and they are turning fast.
My guys, I know you've seen sculptures and statues of similar one where the angel was stepping on the head of a black man. But currently, the current generation of the African youth, we are trying to tell you, we are changing the narrative. We are changing the narrative of where a white angel is stepping on the head of a black man. Check this one out. This is Konfabna also stepping on the head of a white angel. A black woman stepping on the head of a white angel. We are changing the narrative. As the current generation of Africans, we are no more going to worship the white man. So therefore, check this statue out. Konfabna stepping on the head of a white angel to change the narrative that blacks are devils or blacks are useless.
Or Black people are inferior, or Black people are undeserving of respect, or Black people are not beautiful or handsome. All of those narratives and the others that exist out there, we are changing every single freaking one of them. This generation we are so done with this nonsense. Seeing this image healed something in me yesterday. I saw this video just before bed yesterday, and when I tell you, I slept like I had not slept in a long time. The joy in my heart, not because of, oh, there's a Black person trampling, or this image rather of a Black woman or a Black person trampling on the white man, or the image of the white man, but what it signifies that the Black people, African people, are done with allowing this kind of rubbish to continue to be out there. We are no longer buying into this BS that there is something wrong with us, that whiteness is the superior one that we should be looking up to. It signifies that the African people are waking up. The chains of colonization and mental slavery that, locked the brains of my people for years, hundreds of years now, are breaking, and I'm here for it. So this is not I want to see white people under my feet kind of thing, because I'm not interested in that kind of nonsense. It's what it signifies. That's what I'm interested in. Seeing this image really healed something in me, right? Especially being an ex-Christian, an ex-Catholic, growing up in the Catholic Church. The Catholic Church have all of these images that whenever you go to church, you have to see them. I don't know, guys. Like, it's just. I said I was. Oh my goodness, it's so cool. Ah, no, I don't want to cry when my makeup I'm going out. It's just when you grow up and all you see pedestalized and promoted, both in the media, in the church. When you go to the church, the only thing held in high esteem is the opposite of you. And not only is it that the opposite of you is held in such high esteem, but also that you have to now deal with getting demonized, the image of you and your people. You have to watch this happen. And a lot of people internalize these things. Hence why we see a lot of self-hatred, right? In some of our people, the bleaching culture, the hair, and what is considered beautiful. It's like
I just made a $39 personalized storybook using AI in under 2 minutes. Let me show you. So to now see present generation like actively working towards changing the narrative, it's so beautiful to see, and thinking about it like, long term what this means for the young boys and girls coming up. It means if we continue like this forward, we are eventually going to get to a point where we have a generation of people who each and every single freaking one of these people see themselves as the ish, a generation of people who don't have to look outside of themselves for the things that they need.
So we've changed the narrative according to this statue and paintings and sculpture. Confabna, the black conform woman, stepping on the head of a white angel.
And then when you factor this in with, the shift we're seeing on the continent with countries kicking the colonizers out, like Burkina Faso, Mali, Niger. I even heard recently there was this rumor of a coup that happens in Ivory Coast, but come to find out that never really happened. I don't know who started that rumor, but it was a thing. But I saw a brother made this video extensively breaking down, what happened, and he said this.
Now, here is the truth. They don't want you to understand. Whether or not there was a military coup on May 24th, there have definitely been a mental coup across Africa. The real coup isn't happening in presidential palaces. It's happening in the minds of African people across the world. From the universities of Accra to the markets in Lagos, from the diaspora communities in London to the tech hubs in Nairobi, Africans are staging a coup against mental colonization. Whether you're watching this from Abidjan or from Atlanta, from Dakar or Detroit, you are part of this moment. The question isn't whether change is coming to Africa. Change is already here. The question is, are you going to be part of the solution or part of the problem? So here is what I want you to do. Share this video, and more importantly, share this perspective, because every time an African person anywhere in the world understands that our resources, our leadership, and our future don't have to be dictated by foreign powers, the movement grows even stronger. The coup they don't want you to see isn't just happening in Ivory Coast. It is happening everywhere. It's happening wherever Africans are waking up to their own power. And once we are fully awake, there is no force on earth that will put us back to sleep. This is the strategic lens. The revolution won't be televised, but it will.
They don't believe how toxic this is. If you're still using a plastic or wooden cutting board, you need to hear this. I never post stuff like this, but I had to share. I cook almost every day, so we've gone through our fair share of cutting.
Understood.
Like when I heard that, I was like, wow, that was so perfectly cool. A cool really is happening in the minds of African people all across the continent. Just because we are not seeing it 100% yet, like we can see it in, say, Burkina Faso or Mali, doesn't change the fact that it is happening. It's just a matter of time that is going to take a little while, that is going to take for it to like take flesh, for it to come to realization, for us to like physically see it. But the fact that we cannot see it right now don't mean it's not there, right? It's happening up here in African people. And that's another thing that this image signifies to me, right? It signifies what is really going on in the minds of African people. How are we thinking right now? A lot of African people right now are like, F the West and their ideologies big time. F the West and how they think big time, right? And it's just so like crazy to be watching this right now. I'm super excited. There are even pastors who are speaking about how the minds of African people are changing. Some of them are even complaining, talking about how
young Africans are no longer coming to church because they're like, F the colonizers, God, and their religion. And some of the pastors, they are like scared of the shift. And it's crazy to me because, like,
we were in Owerri. A lot of our people in Owerri said in Igbo land right now, there is a movement of young people to abandon Christianity and go back to traditional worship. And that the movement is strong. A lot of young people are leaving church to go back to shrine, to go back to idol worship, that because they don't understand this white man Jesus. They don't understand this white people Bible. They don't understand it. But at least they know that the idols in their village took care of their ancestors. They took care of their great-grandfathers. They took care of their fathers. They want to all go back to African worship where their ancestors were. I also heard that it's not just in Igbo land alone. Somebody called me in UK, one of my daughters in the faith. She said, Papa, we have a crisis all over Africa and all over the world. African young people have come up with a movement that is building momentum to abandon the Bible of the white man and go back to African roots. I'm shouting. People say I'm shouting. Shout. The kind of Jesus that is preached in many churches cannot be explained from the Bible. And a lot of young people have very intelligent questions that pastors are not answering. It makes the Bible look like a concoction of some people for their advantage.
the puppets of the colonizers come in different shapes and forms. When we talk about puppets, for the most part, we only focus on our leaders, right? Leaders, people in governmental positions, all of these people who are just in those positions of power, basically doing the colonizers' bidding. But I feel like we need to start looking beyond that, because for those of us who would be honest with ourselves, would say the truth, which is the church is actually part of the colonizers too. And these pastors are helping them do their bidding. And I think the same thing is happening in America as well, because a little while ago, was it last year? I can't remember exactly, but I came by this video on TikTok. I believe it was from a news network, and this man was talking about the broadcaster, how a lot of African American women are leaving the church. And I actually stitched that video back then, and this was what I had to say.
Growing numbers of African American women in Maryland and across the nation are leaving traditional church worship. All of them are in search of something else, a spiritual belief that connects them to their ancestors and where they can feel more empowered to control their own well-being. They have found it in ancient forms of spiritual contact. Some call it witchcraft, a term they accept and embrace.
And that's exactly the kind of news I want to be hearing on this.
Now, but I'm going to stop it right here. And then, no, I guess you left. So I'm going to stop it right there in order to get my 2 cents in on this one, because this is so important. They're talking about the importance of religion or spirituality. This is where we must draw the line. We have a rich, powerful history that goes back eons of time. And there's no one stopping us. There's no one can tell us what to do, because our ancestors have already spoken. If I'm not wrong, abracadabra means as I speak, so shall it be. We have the concept of the one and all in one. The I am that I am. We have the concept of so many spiritual outlooks that it bespeaks a people who are spiritually grounded. And I'm here to tell you that it is a must that we acknowledge our ancestors so that we can receive the blessings from them. And the actual fact that we are the real Jews. Our Hebraic way of life has been severed, not completely, but severed. And I would say maybe 90% of the 90%. The other 90% of the people who are still sleeping. We must reclaim our African Hebraic way of life. Period. No ifs, no ands, no buts. We all know that white folks not the real Jews. So what gives? It gotta be our returning back home. We have been too far away. We're like the prodigal son that had left home and coming back after learning so much. It is a must to know the past, understand the present, and predict the future. If we don't, then that's going to be our downfall. Up to this very moment, is what it has been. But everybody knows who we are, but for the most part, whatever that may be, we don't. So let me go on and going back to this one, and we're almost wrapping it up.
Connect Street. Amazing. Absolutely amazing.
Dale a tu negocio la mejor dirección en Internet con GoDaddy. Elige entre cientos de dominios y extensos.
So I went into the comment section to go see what people are saying in there, and the comment section as well blew me off. This brother said, "Enough go better for who bring that name Jesus come our land." Translating, he's saying that it won't be well for the person that brought Jesus to Africa. There's just a lot of people like that in the comment section. This person said, "Power to all black people, and love you, brother, for your hard work." This person said, "You can change the narrative without making it look like stepping on an angel." And someone responded to them saying, "We are not here to negotiate." Thank you very much, Mitamo. We are not here to negotiate, because there's going to be some of these our people who always want to tiptoe around what we need to do. They want to play these what ifs and play semantics. No, when it comes to African issues, black issues, when it comes to what needs to be done, it's going to have to be done. This person said we should also change our attitude towards education, which will help us from slavery. We need physical education and practical learning, no more theories. Thank you very much. Spot on. Someone responded to that saying, "Well said, if this can be implemented, we will become producers instead of memorizers. African school curriculum must be changed to reflect our culture and encourage manufacturing and producing." Unsurprisingly, I saw a comment from a white person that says color should never matter. I knew I was going to find a comment like this. I don't know why whenever we have these conversations, we come into the comment section and be telling us that color should never matter, like where this person said we should also change our attitude towards education, which will help us from slavery. We need physical education and practical learning, no more theories. Thank you very much. Spot on. Someone responded to them saying, "Well said, if this can be implemented, we will become producers instead of memorizers. African school curriculum must be changed to reflect our culture and encourage manufacturing and producing." Unsurprisingly, I saw a comment from a white person that says color should
never matter. The difference between the rich and poor is where we should focus. They are turning us against. See, this is what white folk always say. That is not true.
never matter. I knew I was going to find a comment like this. I don't know why whenever we have these conversations, we come into the comment section and be telling us that color should never matter, like we're the ones who made it matter. Like, you get what I mean? It's always crazy to me. Of course, now we should talk about how color doesn't matter, right? But when it was the other way around, they seem to be cool with it. If color really don't matter, then why are you talking about it? You are talking about how it don't matter because it matters to you. And then they went on and they said the difference between the rich and the poor is where we should focus. They are turning us against one another. And then someone responded back to them saying, a sister, shout out to Faye Parr. She said, Color matters because color is what was used against us. Thank you. Until all humans recognize that the black woman is the creator of all, until then, color matters. This comment amazing when I saw it. This person said, what I see is a female African woman defending herself against her biggest enemy. This comment puts it, in my humble opinion, the right perspective. Because really, let's talk about it, right? And I want us to address this from a historical standpoint. Because a lot of people are going to see this image and feel triggered. This can be controversial, right? But which is weird. And quite frankly tells you exactly the kind of world that we live in. That this is controversial. But the initial one wasn't. The initial one is a status quo, it's accepted, it's okay. But it's a white person trampling over the head of a black person, right? I mean, they call that the devil, they call it the devil, right? But we know really what's going on here. When it is that, when it's the devil depicted as a black person, a black man or a black woman, and there is a white person trampling over that person, right? The statue, nobody is complaining. There's nothing wrong. The world continues to go round and round, right? But all of a sudden now, when you do the opposite, now there is a problem. Now it's controversial. It really tells you the kind of world that we live in. We live in such a racist world that racism has been normalized, standardized, upheld, in such a way that now you can't even say, you know what, now I want to step on the head of the racist. When you do that, now all of a sudden you are being a racist, or you are perpetuating hate, or you are discriminating. Then you now start hearing people say things like, oh, you cannot correct one wrong with a wrong. No. That's not what's going on here. That's you saying, you know what, I'm tired of having this person step on my neck. I want to step on their neck back, see how they like it. And earlier, I made mention of history because it was during colonization that this madness started.
Así es como me apoyé en ChatGPT para salir de una situación difícil, tan solo usando mi celular y conexión a internet.
Right? It was during colonization that they introduced this madness to us, introduced this concept of the white man being God and angels and Jesus and all things positive and holy as regards to the bodies in heaven, and the black man, being represented like the devil. See why this is a problem? Because see this person comment, this is from a lady, she said, you people don't have respect for God. God will create una na wa for now. She is saying that the God that created us, right, that we don't have respect for him, that there is something wrong with us, basically, with a side eye emoji. This is why this depiction is terrible. Because this person has internalized the standard of the white man over a black man in the form of, oh, that's an angel. It's not an angel. That's a ploy, a game that they play to make you feel like it's not really what they're doing that they are doing. It's what they are doing that they are doing, but you just try to put it into, like, tie it to God somehow, make it seem like it's not what it is. We that see through this BS, we know exactly what this is, right? But people who are not there yet, right, up here, they are not there yet, they don't, and they slowly buy into it. So now when they see the flip like this, it's like, oh my goodness, this is blasphemy, because she has internalized, whether she's aware of it or not, white supremacy. Hence why her seeing the image of a black woman trampling the head of a white person, it's like, oh my goodness, they're stepping on the head of God. I've said this countless times, that when the God that you worship don't look like you, it's a problem. It is. This is how white worship starts. It's images like this that birth this white worshiping mentality, practice that we see in some of our people, where they see these people like gods. They fear them, they revere them, they like, in their eyes, they cannot do any wrong. It's because of this thing that has been put in their head from like age 0, small, that they indoctrinate them, they come small, and then you get to this point as an adult where subconsciously, you are not consciously aware of it, but in your subconscious, you see the people as gods because they have been depicted as gods to you growing up. So when you see the opposite of that, cognitive dissonance will deactivate critical thinking. You cannot see what's happening because in your mind, like, say, oh my God, this is wrong, this is wrong, this is wrong. This is an image of God. Even though it really isn't, that's an angel. But in this person said white, no, God. This person said this is hate teaching. This is another thing, right? When it was the opposite, it wasn't hate teaching. When it was the opposite, the first one that they brought wasn't hate teaching. This is how you know that, like, this thing, it does something to the mind of people. It really does. People don't understand. So I'm so passionate about this, especially on my TikTok. I talk more about religious stuff on my TikTok. Maybe I should start reposting some of my videos on here as well. This same white person from earlier, this is what he said. Why is everyone provoking God? Was it not the same person earlier that was saying how, oh, it doesn't matter what the color is, I mean, whatnot. Now he's on here talking about why is everybody provoking God? Because he loved the status quo. He cannot see, they cannot stand it. They would not be able to accept for the status quo to change, for we to not be looking up at them or seeing them as gods or angels. They know what these images do. Hence why whenever people are speaking up against it, hence why people are saying, no, we need to take a step back and reevaluate what's going on here. We cannot continue this to go on. This is damaging the mind of people. They get triggered. They get triggered because in as much as they would love to pretend like they don't know what's going on, in as much as they would love to pretend like this is not what it is, this is not them, signaling to people that they are superior and we are inferior. This is not them saying that, oh, you can't trample on the head of a black person. In as much as they know all of this, they will pretend like they don't. But eventually, give them time to talk. You are going to find out because they are going to tell on themselves. Because this person said, why is everybody provoking God? How dare you depict an image of a black woman standing on the head of a white man? That's you provoking God. Oh my goodness. Flip the switch and all of a sudden you start to see how they really think. People in the comments are asking him, who is provoking who? Thank you, because for real, they have been provoking us if we want to keep it 100. Lucky said, which God? This statue shows a black female warrior defeating a demon with her bare hands. And I was going to say something about history earlier, right? Playing into this comment from this person that said that it's an image of a black woman fighting her enemy. When you put the historical context of colonization and slavery into perspective, when you factor that in and you look at this image, right? You think about how they came on the continents, painted themselves to be the good guys, even though we know they were the opposite of that, right? Why this is important? Some people might say, oh, if you're probably reading more meaning into this than whoever made the sculpture, which, by the way, I try to look for who made the sculpture so I can see more of their work and just know more about them and what they're about, right? I mean, obviously, to a large extent, we can't tell what they're about. But, to also maybe give them a shout out, see one more that they are doing, and just to get a lot more info for those that might be curious about them. But unfortunately, I could not find who made the sculpture. I don't know if it's the guy in the video that made it, but I will try and see if I can find any more information. Later on, I'll share with you guys maybe in a community post. Going back to history and why I think this is important, the statue being depicted the way it is, why I think it's important that it is the statue of the white angel, right? Because when you put history into perspective and what went down during colonization and slavery and how these people at first came like, good guys, right? It speaks to the lies being crushed, the lies of they were angels. They came to save us. They came to civilize us. They came to help us. They came for our betterment. This statue made the way it is. It speaks to our ability to be able to now, as a people, see right through their BS, overcome.
We tend to think that our spirit is in our body. That's actually not correct. Your body is in your spirit. People,
the chains that they have over us, this deception, this facade that they have been navigating with, that we were not able to see through before, but eventually now we can, and we're like, yeah, F this. This is crazy. I see right through your disguise. I see right through this, goodness and pureness that you are trying to deceive me with. I see right through your lies, and I'm crushing over that. Yes, I can still see you on the floor trying to pretend like you are good and that I should listen to you and that you are for my good, you want what's best for me. But F that, it's too late. I'm not falling for it anymore. That's what this image represents to me. Hence why I love that, the angel is still in like his angel goods form. It speaks to, if this person really is an angel, why is she stepping over him? Maybe he really isn't. And that is why Africans are presently kicking the colonizers out, because they are no angel, they are no savior. This sculpture speaks to the total liberation and freedom of the African people, not just physical freedom, but also mental freedom. That's how I see it, that's how I interpret it, and I'm here for it. But I want to hear what you guys think. Let me know down below in the comment section what your thoughts are. Let's continue this conversation there. Thank you very much for watching. And of course, as always, I'll be catching you in the next one.
All right, you heard it right there. I mean,
Why is everyone
what needs to be said, what needs to be done, what needs to be told, and she's right, and we are correct. But the thing is that white folks worship us. All of the Greek gods and goddesses, you name it, Black Jesus, Black Mary, Black Joseph, these were all black figures that white folk bowed down to for thousands of years. This is not something new. We've always had statues and not pictures like they would normally have today, Kodak, but you know what I'm saying. And they worship the hell out of us. And they still do, because they want that melanin. And this is the difference between them and us. We fell for the okie doke, no doubt about that. But I'm here to tell you, those days are over. And as soon as we can go back into being how our ancestors were, kicking all the bottom out their ass, putting our foot on their fucking neck, that will be it. That will be it. Oh, hold on, let me check this out. I'm going to try to knock these ones down. Now, too, you got to realize that the richest man in the world is a black man. I think he's in Ghana. He's worth 1.5 trillion with a T dollars, American dollars. You see, there's going to be a lot more than just him. There can be a hell of a lot more billionaires coming out of Africa. Just like they came out of China, just like they came out of Europe, just like they came out of Japan. And so now, I'm going to play this one. This was about 9 minutes long, a little bit over. $12 trillion have been in U.S. money, have been $12 billion in $12 trillion, in gold has been discovered in Uganda. Let me run this back a little bit, and I'll be right back.
50 million tons from gold, confirmed. 20 point something trillion dollars.
In a stunning revelation that made headlines across the world, Uganda's President Yoweri Museveni announced on June 7th, during his State of the Nation address, that the country had discovered gold reserves worth a staggering $12.8 trillion. That's right, 31 million metric tons of gold-bearing ore, with an estimated 300 120,000 metric tons of pure extractable gold buried beneath Ugandan soil.
Continue arguing with the continued export of raw materials in Africa when there is 90% more value to that product that you are giving to the outsider.
Estamos contratando personas nacidas entre 1950 y 2000 para trabajar.
Museveni confidently stated that officials from the Ministry of Energy and Mineral Development had briefed his cabinet on the discovery, claiming the country stood to earn at least $700 million in royalties. For a nation grappling with development challenges, this was not just news, it was a potential economic revolution.
If estimates are correct, mineral government experts say this latest gold discovery could be worth more in revenues than the oil fields in the west of the country.
Excitement swept across the nation, but not everyone was buying into the golden dream. Skepticism quickly followed, from both within Uganda and abroad. Mining experts and geologists began to question the numbers. Alex Kwatampora Binigo, president of the Geological Society of Uganda, called the figures weird. He explained that such massive quantities of gold would be historically unprecedented and insisted the company behind the analysis, Wagage Mining Uganda Limited, needed to clarify the data. The fact that Wagage is Chinese-owned and the analysis was possibly conducted in Mandarin raised questions about translation errors or misinterpretation. Don Bwesigi Binyina, a mineral and energy policy analyst, dropped a bombshell. According to US Geological Survey data, only about 244,000 metric tons of gold have ever been discovered globally. If Uganda's numbers are accurate, that would mean it alone holds more gold than the rest of the world combined. 115 times more, to be exact. Is that even possible? Or did the president confuse ounces with tons? Cut to government officers dodging questions. When journalists from The Independent tried to verify these figures with Uganda's Directorate of Geological Survey and Mines, officials were evasive. One senior official admitted that only the permanent secretary could speak on the matter, while another quietly revealed that the numbers were likely misinterpreted and still being verified with Wagagai. All of this unfolds against a tense international backdrop. Uganda is currently under sanctions, and President Museveni has not held back. In a defiant statement, he declared that Uganda will not export raw minerals.
I said over my dead body, I have banned all the export of unprocessed minerals from here. Let them stay in the ground. When the grandchildren come, they will get them out.
Not now, not ever, and only over his dead body. That means refining, processing, and developing Uganda's mineral wealth must happen within the country on Uganda's terms. Captain Ibrahim Traore, the transitional president of Burkina Faso, has done this before. Traore took a bold and unprecedented steps to reclaim control over his country's gold resources. This move is part of a broader national strategy aimed at asserting economic sovereignty, ending foreign exploitation, and redirecting the country's natural wealth to benefit the Burkinabe people. Gold is Burkina Faso's most valuable export, accounting for over 70% of national export revenues. Yet for years, the majority of this wealth has flowed out through foreign-owned mining companies, leaving little behind for the local population and the state. Since coming to power in September 2022, Traore has made resource nationalization a top priority. His government has begun reviewing and renegotiating mining contracts that were signed under previous regimes, many of which were heavily skewed in favor of foreign companies, especially those from France, Canada, and Australia. These companies often paid minimal royalties while extracting massive profits. In response, Traore's administration has revoked the licenses of operators found guilty of tax evasion, illegal activity, or failure to meet their contractual obligations. These mines were then placed under state control or handed over to state-aligned entities. A significant part of the reform also involves cracking down on gold smuggling. For years, a large portion of Burkina Faso's gold was being trafficked illegally across borders, particularly to neighboring countries. Under Traore, security forces and intelligence units have been mobilized to intercept smuggling networks and ensure that the country's gold production is properly accounted for. These measures aim to stop the hemorrhaging of national wealth and redirect it toward public infrastructure, education, defense, and economic development. Reclaiming gold mines is not just an economic decision, it is a political statement. Traore's actions reflect a broader Pan-African vision shared by other Sahelian leaders, particularly in Mali and Niger. These countries, now part of the Alliance of Sahel States, AES, are uniting around the shared goal of rejecting neocolonial influence and building new models of cooperation rooted in sovereignty and self-determination. Traore has emphasized in his speeches that natural resources like gold must serve the people, not foreign empires, and that reclaiming them is essential to financing national development and ensuring long-term stability.
Hold on.
However, this effort is not without its challenges. Reclaiming and managing gold mines requires technical expertise, investment, and a corruption-resistant state apparatus. Additionally, Burkina Faso now risks political and economic retaliation from Western powers whose financial interests have been disrupted. Internally, Traore must contend with potential opposition from local elites or military actors who benefited from the previous system. Still, the move has been welcomed by many ordinary citizens who see it as a long overdue correction to decades of economic injustice. Traore's stance is symbolic of a growing shift across Africa, where leaders and citizens alike are demanding greater control over their natural wealth and rejecting the legacy of exploitation. If successful, Burkina Faso's approach under Traore could set a powerful example for other resource-rich nations on the continent seeking to reclaim their sovereignty and chart a new course toward true independence. Museveni, following the footsteps of Captain Traore to ban exports, sends a clear message to the West. Uganda is done being a source of raw wealth for foreign exploitation. For Museveni, the gold isn't just a resource. It's a symbol of sovereignty, resistance, and self-determination. But here's the question. Is this discovery real? Is Uganda on the brink of becoming the world's next gold superpower? Or is this a nationalist pride? And can President Museveni protect Uganda's resources from international interests while fighting sanctions and internal doubts? Let us know what you think in the comments below. Is Uganda sitting on a golden empire? Or is this another case of hype over hope? Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more content on African power, Black history, and the fight for economic independence.
All right, we're getting down to the last three, ladies and gentlemen. And let's see which one I want to play next. This one, this one's 11, this one's 11, and this one is 11. What happened? Sorry about the noise, if you can hear that. But, you know, your kids or whoever is playing some kind of a drum, I don't know. But let's go on to what I'll, oh, here it is, okay. What did I, 19, where did I get the 11 minutes from? All right, well, we'll play this one, and I truly like this one. Strike first and fuck everything else later. I'll be right back.
It was just past midnight when the hum began.
Not loud, not obvious, but in the dry stillness of Burkina Faso's southeast border, it was unmistakable. The high-pitched whisper of something mechanical slicing through the dark. And then, just seconds later, hell fell from the sky. A single unmanned drone, flying low and silent, locked onto a convoy of vehicles creeping across the bushland. No headlights, no transponders, no insignias. Inside those vehicles, armed men, mercenaries, loaded with Western gear, heavy rifles, encrypted radios, and combat-grade night vision. Their destination, a strategic oil refinery under construction, just 50 kilometers from the border. Their objective, sabotage, chaos, and if possible, kill Burkina Faso engineers and steal intel. They never made it. In one devastating flash, the lead vehicle was vaporized. The second flipped into flames. The rest scattered, but it was too late. The drone made a second pass, then a third. By the time ground forces arrived, the sand was blackened and smoking. Every mercenary neutralized. Burkina Faso had struck first, and the world noticed. At first, there was confusion. Who authorized it? What drone did they use? Where did they get the coordinates? And then, the facts emerged. Traore had ordered the strike himself. The drone, a foreign prototype, North Korean design, Russian modifications, AES encrypted targeting system, and the intel, intercepted communications and satellite triangulation from Mali and Niger. It wasn't just...
¿Necesitas llevar tu negocio online? GoDaddy te lo pone fácil con herramientas intuitivas y prácticas. Y ahora con GoDaddy hay...
Just a counterattack. It was a demonstration, a message to mercenaries, a message to their sponsors, and most importantly, a message to every African nation still pretending the fight for sovereignty wasn't already here. Burkina Faso wasn't waiting to be attacked anymore. It was hunting first. And for the first time in decades, Western analysts admitted, this we did not expect. The bodies were burned, the vehicles twisted wreckage. But what investigators found at the strike site shocked everyone, especially Traore's high command. These weren't ragtag fighters. These were professionals. Their weapons were clean, their tactics tight, and their equipment foreign, expensive, precise. In the wreckage, US manufactured assault rifles with biometric grips, French satellite radios still logged into encrypted networks, tactical maps printed in English, and marked with Burkina Faso resource sites. Fingerprints pulled from surviving gear led to a bombshell discovery. Most of the fighters were Nigerian nationals, former special forces, some even recently discharged from elite units, but they weren't acting under any official Nigerian orders. They carried no state insignia, no passports, no dog tags. They were ghosts, hired shadows, and someone had paid them handsomely. Banking trails traced through satellite data pointed to offshore accounts registered in the Caribbean, funneled through shell corporations based in Abu Dhabi, London, and Paris. The deeper Burkina Faso intelligence dug, the clearer it became. This wasn't a rogue operation. It was coordinated, funded, greenlit. But who pulled the strings? That answer was darker. Intercepted voice memos from satellite phones revealed a key code name repeated over and over: Falcon Hand. It was familiar to Traore's top intel officers, a phrase flagged in prior CIA-linked sabotage attempts across the Sahel, a call sign used when deniability was essential, when blood had to be spilled without fingerprints. Even more alarming, one of the dead mercenaries had a phone still intact. In it, a contact saved under a simple label: DC Handler. The implications were massive. This wasn't just a team of hired killers. This was a proxy war unit designed to destabilize Burkina Faso's rise before it could inspire a continent. Traore called an emergency meeting of the AES Council, and in that meeting he said 5 words that would shape the days ahead. If they send ghosts, we send thunder. The order to strike didn't come easily. Captain Ibrahim Traore is a soldier, but not a reckless one. He doesn't launch drones on rumors, but this time the intelligence was crystal clear and chilling. 2 nights before the drone strike, Burkina Faso's Signals Intelligence Unit intercepted an encrypted call bouncing off 3 towers, one in Nigeria, one in Ghana, and one in Ouagadougou itself.
That meant one thing. A mole was operating inside the capital. The call was brief, coded, but it ended with the phrase that set off every alarm. Operation Broken Spine begins in 72 hours. Within minutes, military cyber teams decrypted the associated data packet. Attached was a crude satellite image, a zoomed-in shot of the oil refinery under construction in Kudugu, the pride of Traore's new economic independence campaign. Below it, coordinates. Above it, a timestamp. The mercenaries weren't coming. They were already inside the perimeter. Burkina Faso special forces were mobilized silently. Niger's drone command, already monitoring the area, confirmed unusual movement near the southeastern corridor. Vehicles traveling without lights, stopping at obscure checkpoints, off-road routes bypassing standard border crossings. One image showed a man in full tactical gear, face uncovered, holding a map. He had a Nigerian military tattoo on his forearm, and a patch once worn by Western-trained peacekeeping forces. That was enough. At 3:44 a.m., Traore called his war council. 5 officers, no civilians, one decision. He looked each of them in the eye and asked one question. If they reach the refinery, what happens? The response was solemn. We lose the project, we lose momentum, and we lose the people's trust. Traore nodded once, then calmly issued the words that would define the night. Deploy the drone. Terminate the threat. It wasn't a show of power. It wasn't revenge. It was preemptive survival. Because in the new age of warfare, you don't wait for the bullets to fly. You strike before your future burns. And with that, the sky opened. It wasn't American. It wasn't French.
Good evening and welcome to Uncommon Sense. Tonight, a question that stumps.
And it definitely wasn't bought through any Western supplier. The drone that struck the mercenary convoy in southeast Burkina Faso was something the world didn't see coming. It was a hybrid machine, North Korean design, Russian modified targeting, AES programmed software interface, its name inside military channels, Nayiri 7, a nod to an ancient mossy warrior queen. Compact, radar stealth-coated and equipped with infrared thermal precision, the Nayiri 7 could fly 800 kilometers without refuel. But this model had been upgraded for one purpose only, to end incursions before they start. Developed in secret under Burkina Faso's new Sovereign Defense Tech initiative, the Nayiri 7 was built with direct cooperation from engineers in Pyongyang and tested discreetly in northern Mali with help from AES partners. Its firepower, 2 compact heat-seeking missiles and a custom-designed fragmentation payload that could obliterate armored vehicles without damaging nearby terrain, perfect for protecting infrastructure while eliminating hostiles. But it wasn't just the hardware that shocked Western analysts. It was how fast it was deployed. In under 12 minutes from command order to launch, target recognition using AI fed with live border data, 0 civilian casualties, 0 second chances. When satellite footage confirmed the strike's aftermath, analysts at AFRICOM reportedly said, whatever they used, we don't have anything that moves that clean out there. And suddenly, everything changed. Burkina Faso, a country once considered technologically inferior, had just demonstrated a sovereign strike capacity backed by non-Western tech alliances. It didn't just level the battlefield, it redrew the map. No more dependence on French drones, no more begging the US for surveillance imagery. Burkina Faso had its own eye in the sky, and it had just blinked, lethally. The message was loud and clear. If you walk into this land with weapons, you won't walk out. The strike was public, the explosion undeniable. Yet from Abuja, the capital of Nigeria, nothing. No condemnation, no press briefing, no request for clarification, just silence. Inside the Nigerian State House, however, it was chaos. President Bola Tinubu's national security team was blindsided. Sources leaked that intelligence chiefs were scrambling to identify the dead man, but couldn't, because most of them had vanished from military records months ago. No official orders, no government acknowledgement. But biometric scans confirmed what was feared. These were former Nigerian elite soldiers, now operating as off-the-books mercenaries.
Worse yet, preliminary internal reports suggested that several of them had recently trained in a foreign-run facility in Senegal, one known to host private security contractors with Western funding connections. So why didn't Nigeria speak up? Because the truth was far too dangerous. If Abuja admitted these men were theirs, they'd risk triggering a diplomatic firestorm with Burkina Faso and its AES allies. If they denied knowledge, they'd still have to explain why Nigerian-trained men were on a covert sabotage mission inside another sovereign nation. Caught between exposure and humiliation, the Tinubu administration chose silence, hoping the world would move on. But the world didn't. African media exploded. Nigerian and Malian outlets asked the question openly, was Nigeria trying to destabilize Traore under foreign pressure? Burkinabe TV ran 24/7 coverage of the drone strike aftermath. Interviews with locals, analysis of intercepted mercenary gear, and repeated footage of Traore's now viral quote, "Those who send killers into our home will receive no invitation, only fire." On the streets of Lagos and Abuja, Nigerians were split. Some denounced the mercenaries and called for a full investigation. Others warned that Western influence is turning our soldiers into pawns. But the most haunting rumor came from within Nigeria's own military. A leaked voice note from an officer whispered, "They knew. They just didn't think Traore would respond." He did. And now, the silence from Abuja speaks louder than any official statement ever could. As the dust settled over the drone strike zone, another story began to surface, one far more dangerous than a border skirmish. Because inside the remains of the mercenary convoy, investigators discovered something chilling. A tactical operations binder, water-damaged, charred, but legible enough to raise alarms. Inside, satellite images annotated in French, tactical formations drawn to NATO specifications.
They don't believe how toxic this is. If you're still using a plastic or wooden cutting board, you need to hear this. I never post stuff like this.
GPS-marked oil and gold infrastructure points in Burkina Faso, Mali, and Niger, and stamped across the top, Foreign Asset Liaison, Priority Objective. Traore's intelligence unit immediately flagged the symbols. They matched identifiers from previous French military planning templates, last seen during the height of Operation Barkhane. But the real bombshell, the binder's communication protocol logs, each message packet routed through a server cluster in Virginia, Langley, Virginia, the heart of CIA operations. Traore called an emergency session of the AES Security Council. Inside the war room, generals reviewed every intercepted message, every signal burst, every time-stamped relay. The conclusion: this wasn't just Nigeria, this was a coordinated proxy operation. And the backers weren't wearing uniforms. They were sitting in Washington and Paris, signing off on plans designed to make Burkina Faso implode from within. Why? Because Traore had done the unthinkable. Nationalized oil, expelled French troops, refused IMF debt, and declared Africa no longer open for exploitation. To Western powers, that wasn't sovereignty. That was rebellion. And the only way to stop rebellion is to create chaos. The CIA, long accused of stirring coups across Africa, remained silent. France's foreign ministry denied everything, but couldn't explain why a French-manufactured SAT radio system was found on a dead mercenary at the site. AES leaders were done talking. In Niamey, Bamako, and Conakry, defense chiefs began coordinating a new protocol. AES Zero Compromise, a zero-tolerance strategy against any foreign-backed sabotage network. And as for Traore, he stood before the cameras once again and said, "If you send agents in the shadows, don't be surprised when we send light to burn the dark." The drone strike was explosive, the evidence of foreign sabotage, chilling. But what happened next? That wasn't orchestrated by governments or generals. It came from the streets, from Lagos to Bamako, from Dakar to Johannesburg. Africa stood up. In Ouagadougou, thousands gathered outside the National Assembly, waving Burkinabe and AES flags. They weren't just protesting, they were celebrating. Traore struck first, finally, shouted one man with tears in his eyes. Young women painted war paint across their cheeks, chanting, "Burkina is awake. Who's next? In Mali, students printed leaflets with satellite images of the drone strike aftermath. At the top, in bold letters, "Don't mess with sovereignty." In Nigeria, the origin of the mercenaries, the reaction was different, but no less powerful. Some were angry. They felt betrayed by the silent complicity of their leaders, but most were just heartbroken that their own brothers had been used as pawns by foreign interests. One viral tweet from a Nigerian activist read, "They didn't die for Nigeria, they died for someone else's oil money." Across Africa, social media exploded with solidarity. Trending hashtags made Traore the defender, Africa is waking up, her sovereignty or death and memes, thousands of them. Traore holding a joystick captioned, "Press X to eliminate invaders." A map of Africa with drone targets marked "No fly for colonizers." Clips of the explosion edited with Afrobeat and anti-colonial slogans. Artists began painting murals of the strike. Poets recited verses in marketplaces. "We have buried fear, now we bury trespassers." And then came the student marches, in Ghana, in Kenya, in the DRC. One placard read, "Traore did in one night what 50 years of diplomacy could not." For the first time in decades, it wasn't a Western leader dominating headlines in Africa. It was a Burkinabe soldier, young, fearless, and unapologetically African. This wasn't just geopolitical, it was generational, because for every corrupt official in a palace, there were 1 million young Africans in the street, ready to fight for what's theirs. And with one drone strike, Traore had lit the fire. The pressure came fast. In Washington, White House officials released a carefully worded statement. "We urge restraint and call for an immediate de-escalation of hostilities in the Sahel." In Paris, the French foreign minister declared, "Burkina Faso's actions threaten regional stability and violate international norms." The EU convened an emergency session. NATO intelligence networks buzzed. BBC and CNN rolled out back-to-back specials. Is Traore leading Africa into chaos? But in Ouagadougou, there was no panic, only laughter. Captain Ibrahim Traore, sitting with his top advisors in a secure command bunker beneath the presidential complex, reviewed the Western responses in silence. Then he leaned back and said, "They talk of order, but what they fear is control slipping from their hands." He wasn't wrong. The West had played the same card for decades. Label defiant African leaders as dangerous, paint them as unstable, call for restraint, while funding the very chaos they claim to oppose. But this time, the old playbook wasn't working. Burkina Faso didn't flinch. AES didn't condemn the strike. And the people, they cheered louder. Traore took it a step further. He held a press conference, live, no teleprompters, no scripted lines, just fire. To those urging restraint, we see through your mask. You armed the mercenaries, you trained the saboteurs, you triggered this, and now that we've responded, you call us dangerous.
I want to get rid of this visceral fat. Check this out.
This is how to get chicken ass.
What is the best way to lose this?
He paused, let the silence burn. Burkina Faso is not your puppet. Our borders are not open to conquest. If protecting our land makes you uncomfortable, good, that means it's working. The clip went viral. Even Western citizens, tired of endless hypocrisy, began reposting his words with captions like, "This is what real leadership looks like." Think tanks warned of a new Cold War in Africa. Defense analysts called for immediate countermeasures. But deep down, the West understood the truth. This wasn't about a drone strike. It was about losing control and the fear that others might follow. Traore had crossed a line, not the West's line, Africa's line, the line that separates obedience from freedom. The drone strike may have killed the mercenaries, but the war had just begun. Intelligence reports warned of more incursions being planned. Encrypted chatter from foreign servers hinted at secondary assets waiting in the shadows. Traore didn't wait for a second wave. He called an emergency session of the Alliance of Sahel States, AES, Mali, Niger, Burkina Faso, the trio that had already defied ECOWAS, expelled France, and redefined African unity. What followed was unprecedented. The immediate activation of a joint military response protocol, Operation Iron Shield. Not a drill,
Not a simulation, a full, real-time, cross-border defensive doctrine. Within hours, AES satellites were redirected to monitor high-risk zones. Encrypted channels were opened between Ouagadougou, Niamey, and Bamako for 24/7 battlefield coordination. Joint air patrols began rotating. Burkinabe drones, Malian helicopters, and Nigerian recon jets scanning every inch of the Sahel for threats. At ground level, it was even bolder. Mali deployed elite counter-infiltration units to the Burkina border. Niger sent mobile radar stations and long-range anti-air systems. Burkina Faso reinforced every strategic oil, gold, and lithium site with AES commandos. Command centers were established in each capital, each linked by real-time intel, satellite feeds, and shared drone swarms. If one nation was hit, all three would respond in under 5 minutes. This wasn't just defense, it was deterrence. A declaration to every foreign actor planning sabotage. If you strike one of us, you face all of us. And this time, we shoot back. Even more shocking, Guinea, Chad, and the Central African Republic sent military observers to AES headquarters, expressing interest in joining future versions of the Shield. The West scrambled. Pentagon officials called it a dangerous militarization. French analysts called it a rogue alliance. But on the ground, African citizens called it something else. The first real African army. Traore, Goita, and Chiani appeared in a joint broadcast. No medals, no suits, just uniforms, grit, and a single unified message. Africa is no longer defenseless. We are the shield, and we are ready. They thought it was a warning shot. They were wrong. The drone strike, the viral speech, the rise of Operation Iron Shield. None of it was an accident. It was the beginning of a doctrine, a new African rule. Step onto our land with weapons, and you won't step off it. In the days that followed, satellite traffic intensified. US surveillance drones hovered at a distance. French intelligence teams shifted their attention deeper into AES territory, but they didn't dare move, because something had changed. The cost of intervention had gone up, way up. AES intelligence leaked one final memo, not to provoke war, but to end the guessing. A single sentence stamped in red across a classified communique. All unregistered military presence inside AES borders will be treated as hostile and neutralized without negotiation. No ambiguity, no bluff, just fire. Western think tanks scrambled to respond. Rand Corporation called it a seismic shift in Africa's defense posture. The CIA flagged Traore as a Tier 1 destabilizer. France quietly evacuated several private security consultants from Ouagadougou and Niamey. They understood. The red line had been drawn, not in ink, but in blood and steel, and crossing it now would mean open confrontation, not with a single state, but with a hardened alliance born from betrayal, war, and resistance. Meanwhile, African youth were electrified. Graffiti on city walls read, "Don't tread, don't test, don't try." Students at the University of Bamako held seminars titled "The Day Africa Fought Back," and across AES territory, school children were taught a new acronym, IS, Iron Shield. It's not just protection, it's identity. As for Traore, he stood atop a newly secured oil platform in Koudougou, surrounded by engineers and soldiers. When asked by a reporter if he feared retaliation, he replied, "Fear is for those who borrow power. We built ours." Then he turned away, eyes fixed on the horizon. Because for the first time in a century, Africa wasn't waiting for orders. It was drawing the line and daring the world to cross it.
If you don't know it by now, this world is changing. This world is changing and fading back to black. It has no other choice. The universe, God, Jesus, Buddha, Allah, Krishna, whatever name, I just tired of white folk bullshit. The white man is the most hated man on the fucking planet, if you don't know that by now. He had done nothing but brought death, destruction, disease, and despair to the table of humanity. He's not like us. They're not like us. They're a living, breathing, killing machine that whine, moan, and complain about it like a 5-year-old trapped in a grown man's body, grown woman's body. And I find it sickening to my core that some of us are still walking right behind white folks, smelling their ass and not even wondering why. Are we that sick in the head? Are we that gone that we don't understand the blessing of our ancestors is upon us when we recognize it? How do you do that? How do you ignore your ancestors? For the Bible says, for the child that blesses and honors thy mother and thy father, your days upon the earth will be long and not long suffering. I just don't get it. But we're gonna get it together. No ifs, ands, or buts about it, because there is no choice now. Feel me? So let's go to the next one, and we'll be almost done. And I'll be right back. This one, world stunned. Burkina Faso Traore revived dead mind.
Years of chaos, corporate exits, and conflict. How did a country abandoned by Western miners turn its crumbling industry into a comeback story? Who's behind this revival? And why now? Let's find out. In the dust of abandoned equipment and sealed shafts, something has begun to stir in Burkina Faso's goldfields. The world thought it was finished, left behind by companies that once praised its potential, but fled at the first sign of trouble. What they didn't realize was that gold doesn't vanish. It just waits for hands bold enough to claim it. And in 2025, those hands are finally back at work. Burkina Faso has quietly set its sights on an ambitious milestone, a 4% rise in industrial gold production, pushing the total to 55.7 metric tons. But this number isn't just a data point, it's a declaration. Because in the global gold race, a percentage point can change the fate of an entire nation. This unexpected growth comes not from fresh foreign deals or miracle discoveries, but from something far more calculated, the reactivation of sleeping giants. Two mining sites, Yuga in the south and Kiaka in the southeast, are being brought back online with strategic precision. The first, once left idle in silence, now hums with renewed activity. The second, still untouched by extraction, is preparing to break ground. Behind these numbers lies a country refusing to play victim. And at the center of that transformation is a deliberate strategy. Reclaim what's already there. Rather than pouring energy into risky new digs or chasing speculative territories, the government and its partners are breathing life into the dormant veins of gold that others left behind. The Yuga mine, long considered a fading memory, has returned to operation under Soleil Resources International Latif. Quietly but steadily, operations resumed in late 2024. Now, trucks move in and out, the ground gives way to drills, and the site pulses with activity once more. This isn't just a technical restart, it's a symbolic one. Yuga's reawakening is proof that gold doesn't belong only to those who discover it first, but to those who hold on last. Meanwhile, the Kiaka mine, operated by Australia's West African Resources, is marching toward its first pour. Expected in the third quarter of 2025. What makes Kiaka special isn't just its scale or reserves, but its timing. It's coming online after others have fled. In the ashes of uncertainty, Kiaka stands as a kind of defiance, proof that even in retreat, opportunity remains for those with enough patience and guts. And here's the twist. None of this happened in isolation. These two mines were not just reactivated, they were re-strategized. Their timing and scale appear calculated to fill the exact vacuum left by Western firms who once held the keys. As Burkina Faso rises from its mining lull, it's not starting over. It's picking up the pieces of a game someone else quit playing. The implications of this are vast. For one, it repositions the country in the African gold map, not just as a producer, but as a survivor in the high-risk, high-reward resource sector. And more importantly, it sends a clear message. Burkina Faso doesn't need to be rescued. It needs space to operate on its own terms. That 4% rise isn't just about metrics, it's a signal flare. It tells the world that gold is flowing again, but this time, the pipelines and profit structures might look very different. Still, numbers alone don't change power. If Burkina Faso truly wants to control its gold story, it can't just mine it, it has to own it. And ownership, as history shows, doesn't begin in the fields. It begins in the frameworks, the contracts, the laws, the rules of the game. So as the drills roar back to life in Yuga and Kiaka, a deeper question rises beneath the surface. Is the country merely producing more gold, or is it finally building a system where Burkinabe hands hold the keys to Burkinabe treasure? That's where the real shift begins. Not underground, but in the halls of government. And that's exactly where we're headed next. Here's a reminder to please like and share the video and subscribe to our channel to watch more videos on Black culture, history, civilization, and identity. Let's continue now. Gold might glitter underground, but real power lies in the paper that governs it. That's a lesson Burkina Faso has now etched into its national strategy. Because after reactivating its mines and proving the veins still run deep, the next move wasn't to dig faster. It was to change the rules of the game entirely. Yuga and Kiaka may be buzzing with activity, but if Burkina Faso wanted to ensure its gold didn't just leave in foreign trucks, if it truly wanted to capture value for its people, it had to do something far more radical, redesign who benefits from the gold economy. And that began with the mining code. Since coming to power in 2022, Captain Ibrahim Traore has not only positioned himself as a military leader, but as an economic architect. Early in his rule, he recognized what many African governments have ignored for decades, that natural resources without national control don't bring sovereignty, they bring dependence. And so, under his administration, Burkina Faso began the slow and deliberate process of rewriting the legal backbone of its mining sector. This wasn't a cosmetic update. The changes went to the root. The revised mining code now gives the state a significantly larger role in mining operations, both in oversight and in actual financial participation. Foreign companies, under the new code, are no longer just operating in the shadows with flexible contracts and offshore tax shelters. They must now acknowledge the Burkinabe state as a real stakeholder, with its expectations, shares, and rights. The reforms include stricter transparency requirements, revenue sharing mandates, and a framework to channel more profits into the national budget and the Mineral Wealth Fund. In short, the state doesn't just approve licenses. It now acts as a silent partner with a loud voice. But the true genius lies not in the technicalities, but in the timing. The mining code reform came at a moment of global retreat. Western companies were already unnerved. Security concerns, regional instability, and the rise of juntas across the Sahel had made them uncomfortable. Some had already started packing up. So when Burkina Faso changed the law, it wasn't doing so from a place of weakness. It was doing so in a vacuum. With companies leaving anyway, the government could finally impose new terms without fear of collapse. They weren't pushing partners away. They were watching them walk out the door. And once the doors closed, they locked them differently. That's why Fortuna Silver Mines made headlines in April 2025. The Canadian firm, which had once held a prized concession at the Yaramoko mine, sold its stake to a local private company for $130 million. Their reason? Officially, declining reserves. But in the corridors of industry, another story circulated. Burkina Faso was no longer easy money. In reality, the new code meant Western firms couldn't extract profits and leave governance behind. That old era was gone. Now every gram of gold had to pass through a web of accountability, taxation, and local contribution. It was no longer enough to mine. Companies had to build, share, and stay visible. These legal changes also had a psychological effect. They signaled a government that wasn't just surviving, but planning long term. This wasn't looting or chaos. It was structural reform under pressure. And that perception, order under a military regime, was enough to shift the playing field. Of course, the West didn't celebrate. Investors labeled the move as nationalization-like, and policy analysts warned of a chilling effect. But for the Burkinabe people, it was a long overdue correction. A resource-rich nation with one of the world's poorest populations could no longer afford to be polite about wealth. The new code didn't just reshape contracts, it redefined the idea of economic patriotism.
Hold on.
Necesitas impulsar tu negocio. Ahorra al comprar un plan de...
It asked a fundamental question. What does it mean to mine gold in a country where the majority still lives in poverty? And the answer was equally unapologetic. It means giving more of that gold back to the soil it came from. Still, Burkina Faso knew that rewriting laws on paper wouldn't be enough. To replace old investors, they needed new allies, ones who wouldn't flinch at national terms. They had just closed the Western chapter. Now, it was time to turn east. When you slam one door shut, another often swings open. That's exactly what happened after Burkina Faso restructured its mining code and began asserting control over its mineral wealth. As Western investors packed their briefcases and quietly left through the back door, another global player stepped forward, calmly, confidently, and with a different set of rules: Russia. This wasn't an accident. It was a calculated pivot by both sides. For Burkina Faso, the exodus of Western mining firms didn't create a crisis. It created a vacancy and opportunity. The junta-led government didn't just want investors who could extract gold. It wanted partners who would play by the new rules. The West, with its long-standing expectation of soft contracts and colonial leftovers, had outlived its usefulness. Russia, on the other hand, was willing to negotiate from scratch. In May 2025, the military government granted a new industrial gold mining license to Nordgold, a Russian company with both the appetite and political backing to operate where others hesitate. This wasn't a small symbolic deal. The project is expected to yield 20.22 metric tons of gold over 8 years, becoming one of the most significant new ventures in Burkina Faso's modern mining era. More importantly, it wasn't a silent handshake behind closed doors. The Council of Ministers publicly confirmed that the Nordgold project would contribute approximately $89 million to the national budget, plus an additional 7.06 billion CFA francs directly into the country's mineral wealth fund. This transparency wasn't just for show, it was a message. This is how new partnerships will work. But why Russia? Unlike the West, which often brings with it institutional conditionality, media scrutiny, and long-winded development strings, Russia's approach is more transactional and tactical. It doesn't ask many questions about governance. It doesn't lecture. What it wants is access and reliability, and what it offers in return is investment without interference. And from Burkina Faso's perspective, that's exactly the kind of partner it needs in a post-coup reality. The country isn't just reconfiguring its economy, it's defending it. And that defense requires financial insulation from Western retaliation and diplomatic maneuvering that doesn't treat the junta as a temporary stain on history. Russia, already deepening its influence across Mali, Niger, and the Central African Republic, views Burkina Faso as the next logical link in a pan-Sahelian corridor of influence. A corridor where Western influence has waned and mutual interest, not moral lectures, drives diplomacy. For Moscow, investing in gold isn't just about profit. It's about strategic positioning. In a global order increasingly defined by multipolar tension, having long-term access to Africa's mineral belt means more than dollars. It means leverage. It means loyalty. It means hedging bets against the Western-dominated financial system. And so, Burkina Faso finds itself at the center of a quiet geopolitical tug of war, but this time with the advantage. The same nation that was once viewed as an investment risk is now setting its terms and attracting suitors who understand that risk can also mean realignment. Nordgold's license is likely just the first of many. Sources close to Burkina Faso's Ministry of Energy and Mines have hinted at further exploratory discussions with Russian infrastructure and energy firms, suggesting that the gold deal could be the entry point for broader bilateral cooperation from defense procurement to digital infrastructure. There's also a diplomatic synergy. As Western embassies reduce their presence and criticize the junta's democratic legitimacy, Russian diplomats are going the other way, building rapport, offering training, and creating people-to-people connections that bypass traditional elite structures. In cities like Ouagadougou, Russian language institutes and cultural centers are quietly popping up. Moscow isn't just sending machines, it's planting ideas. And while these moves may unsettle global watchdogs, they sit well with a government that no longer seeks validation, only partners. Still, this partnership comes with new dynamics. Russia may not impose the same ideological expectations as the West, but it does demand alignment. That means Burkina Faso is now entering a new kind of relationship, one based not on charity or control, but on calculated exchange. Whether that exchange remains balanced will depend on what the country does next. Because once the gold starts flowing again, the question won't just be about who's digging, but who's keeping the gold and what they're doing with it. And that leads to the final frontier in this transformation, turning raw output into real power, not just by extraction, but by economic weaponization. Gold, in its rawest form, is just a rock. But in the right hands, it becomes something more than a commodity. It becomes currency, leverage, and defense. For Burkina Faso in 2025, gold is no longer just a product of extraction. It's now a tool of economic warfare, strategic insulation, and political assertion. This evolution didn't happen overnight. It's the result of careful steps. First, reigniting production, then rewriting ownership laws. Followed.
I canceled my Mid-Journey subscription because this AI does everything I need for a one-time cost.
By realigning foreign partnerships. And now, Burkina Faso stands at the final and most transformative phase, using gold not just to survive, but to dominate its economic narrative. But what does it mean to weaponize gold? It means making the gold economy work for the state, not just for investors or exporters. It means channeling mining profits into national security, public infrastructure, and sovereign wealth, not into offshore accounts or stockholder dividends. It's about flipping the model, from resource drain to resource-driven resistance. The current administration under Captain Ibrahim Traore is not only conscious of this strategy, it's openly crafting it. The recent license granted to Russia's Nordgold wasn't just about tonnage and budgets. It was structured to inject nearly $90 million directly into the national treasury, with another 7 billion CFA francs earmarked for Burkina Faso's Mineral Wealth Fund. That fund isn't a passive account. It's becoming the financial engine behind a broader nationalist agenda, investing in military equipment without foreign strings, stabilizing the currency, and even exploring regional trade in gold-backed instruments, essentially using gold to push back against dependency on volatile foreign aid or debt markets. There are already signs that this approach is yielding results. According to internal documents leaked from the Ministry of Finance, part of the gold revenue is being redirected toward rural infrastructure programs, such as electrification of mining-impacted zones and road networks to connect extraction hubs to domestic processing facilities. It's a sharp departure from the past, where roads led only to export ports, not back to the people. Gold is also reshaping monetary thinking. Burkina Faso, long tethered to the CFA franc, an outdated colonial currency still influenced by the French treasury, is now openly entertaining alternatives. There are whispers in Ouagadougou about piloting gold-backed local notes for internal trade, or launching mineral-tied savings bonds to raise internal capital while bypassing global credit markets. In short, gold is becoming a counterweight to economic colonization, and it goes even deeper. In private meetings among regional allies, particularly within the Sahelian bloc, Burkina Faso has floated the idea of forming a joint resource stabilization mechanism, where gold reserves from Burkina, Mali, and Niger could be pooled to shield member states from foreign financial pressure. While still early, this would mark a radical departure from traditional African monetary dependency. It would be the first time post-colonial African nations coordinated gold as a political shield, not just a trade product. The very act of hoarding, redirecting, and coordinating gold profits becomes an act of sovereignty. Burkina Faso isn't just exporting anymore, it's stockpiling purpose. And this new posture is reflected in how the state talks to its people. State-run media now routinely presents mining updates not as business news, but as victories in the ongoing war for economic dignity. Public rallies increasingly feature economic themes. Gold for our future, the soil is ours again. Slogans that blur the line between policy and nationalism. Of course, there are critics. Some worry that concentrating so much financial hope on a volatile commodity creates future risk. Others argue that state-led development, especially under a military regime, may favor control over transparency. But to the average Burkinabe, for now, it's simple. Gold is flowing. And for once, it's not flowing out of the country. It's flowing in. And that shift has consequences beyond borders. As Burkina Faso sharpens gold into a tool of resilience, it is rewriting the rules not only for itself, but for the entire region. It's no longer just a gold producer. It's becoming a case study in how natural resources can be reclaimed, redirected, and used not just for profit, but for power. Do you think Traore did the impossible? Will more leaders join in? Let us know in the comments section. Are these moves changing Burkina Faso forever? Do you want to watch more videos like this one? If so, subscribe to our channel and press the bell icon next to it. We have decided to bring videos on something nobody talks about: the Black culture, civilization, history, and evidence about how glorious Blacks have been. Thanks for watching, and until the next video, stay tuned.
Alright, you heard it. This is the last video. I'm just gonna go right into it and wrap it up for tonight. And for those who are watching, I really appreciate you guys coming in to see the program tonight, because it matters, because it's always about Black first, second, third, and last, and every point in between. We cannot become lackadaisical. We cannot become lackadaisical. Our kids' future is riding on what we do today. And if we don't stand up like true, real men and women, what the fuck are you doing? You, the 1866 Civil Rights Act and the Enforcement Act acts because the Department of Justice was created for you, Black man, Black woman. They've been, it's been buried. They've been buried under the dirt of lies and deceit that has allowed the white man to come into political and economic power. That's the only reason why they did. During the 1870s, 80s, no, 60s, 70s, up to 1880, Black people were running this fucking government. Have you ever heard of the Wilmington, Delaware takeover, the coup? Look that up, please. White men, white people, white women can't stand you niggas. They're scared of you niggas. Because they know they are getting their ass kicked all out the bottom of that motherfucker. And you know me by now, fuck all white folks. Man, I don't give a fuck about none of them. They're nasty and fucking dirty, disgusting. So let's round this up, and I'll be right back.
Are no longer just neighbors, they are now on the path to becoming one country. This ISNT speculation, and it's certainly ISNT, an online fantasy cooked up to promote political leaders. It is a confirmed strategic objective announced by the transitional governments of these three nations themselves. What started as the Alliance of Sahel States, or AES, a military and security pact, quickly matured into a confederation, a formal political union of sovereign states cooperating for mutual benefit. But now, the leaders of these three countries have announced their intention to go even further, to dissolve their individual sovereignties into one federal state, creating a single national entity with one central government, one currency, one defense command, and one foreign policy. In simple terms, Burkina Faso, Mali, and Niger are becoming one country. No more separate presidencies. No more competing armies. No more fragmented economies trying to survive in isolation. The days of colonial borders dividing people who share the same culture, religion, languages, and history are being deliberately dismantled. And at the forefront of this historic unification stands one name more prominent than the rest, Captain Ibrahim Traore. Among the three leaders, Traore of Burkina Faso, Goita of Mali, and Chiani of Niger, it is Traore who has gained the most public trust, both inside and outside his country. His speeches have gone viral across Africa.
Hold on.
Africa. His defiance of the West has made him a hero for millions.
And within the Confederation, it's widely believed and increasingly expected that he will be the one to lead the new unified Sahelian state as its first president. Not because he demanded it, but because of the symbolic and strategic weight he carries. Traore represents the next generation of African leadership, young, Pan-African, revolutionary, and grounded in service to his people. He is not a man obsessed with personal power, but one who speaks constantly about dignity, sovereignty, and collective survival. And that makes him the natural face of a federation born out of resistance to neo-colonialism and foreign control. The federation itself is not just a dream anymore, it is in motion. The states are already discussing legal structures, integration of military forces, a unified diplomatic corps, and a new economic framework that will break entirely from the CFA franc, which for decades has tied West African economies to France's treasury. They are studying models from around the world, from the European Union to historical federations like Tanzania, and adapting ideas that fit their specific context. But their goal is clear: one country, forged by three nations, driven by African values, protected by African armies, and governed by African hands. This decision didn't come overnight. It is the product of years of frustration, humiliation, and awakening. For too long, these countries were treated like unstable colonies needing Western babysitting. They were flooded with foreign military bases, offered loans that led to debt traps, and told that they were incapable of running their own affairs. All three countries suffered under terrorism that never seemed to end, despite billions in Western aid and military presence. But once they each removed the pro-Western leaders from power, once Mali kicked out France, once Burkina Faso demanded full control of its territory, and once Niger resisted ECOWAS sanctions, it became clear that these states shared not just a problem, but a solution. Unity, sovereignty, federation. And now, they are building it together. If successful, this new Sahelian Federation could become a model for all of Africa, a new standard of cooperation, development, and independence. For now, the process is just beginning. Institutions must be built, laws must be unified, and the people must be consulted. But the political will is already there. The path is chosen. And Traore, whether he ends up as president or not, is the symbol of this new chapter in African history. This is no longer the era of begging for inclusion in foreign systems. This is the time of building African systems. And if anyone doubts it, they don't need to take your word for it. A simple Google search will show that this isn't fiction. It's fact. Confirmed by Al Jazeera. Reported by Anadolu Agency. Discussed on France 24. The world is watching the birth of a new country in the Sahel. And Africa is finally taking back its future. This federation could potentially unlock a wave of African integration movements across the continent. If the Sahel succeeds in becoming one country, it will directly challenge the idea that African unity is impossible. It will show the continent that real integration is not only possible, but necessary for survival. The Sahel countries have proven that cooperation isn't a luxury, it's a strategy for liberation. In the face of sanctions, military threats, and economic sabotage from foreign-dominated organizations like ECOWAS and UEMOA, the three states chose to unite instead of surrender. That sends a message far beyond their borders. It signals to other African nations that regional blocs don't have to be toothless talk shops. They can be the engines of independence. If successful, this federation could trigger similar moves in Central Africa, the Horn of Africa, and even Southern Africa. Africa's borders, drawn by Europeans in 1884, were never meant to serve Africans. Now, for the first time in over a century, Africans are redrawing those borders for themselves, not with war, but with vision. Economically, the implications of this federation are enormous. By pooling their resources, the new country would control vast reserves of gold, uranium, lithium, manganese, and agricultural land. Together, these three states cover a massive landmass rich in natural wealth that has for decades been exploited by foreign corporations and governments under unfair contracts and neo-colonial arrangements. With a unified economy, the Federation can negotiate as a bloc, set terms for extraction, and process more of its raw materials domestically. This is exactly what Traore has been preaching in Burkina Faso, that no African country can develop by simply exporting raw materials and importing finished products.
Want to know how to turn your viewers into shoppers? It's simple. It's Shopify. My viewers are my customers, so starting a store on Shopify.
Industrialization, value addition, and resource control must happen at home. Now, as a federation, they can create a large enough market and industrial base to make that dream real. And by creating a single currency independent of the CFA franc and backed by their resources, not the euro, they will finally regain monetary sovereignty, which is the foundation of all economic power. Militarily, this federation marks the end of foreign domination in the region. For years, France, the United States, and other Western countries used military bases and counter-terrorism missions to justify their presence in the Sahel, often with unclear results and many civilian casualties. But now, with the creation of a joint military command, shared intelligence, and common defense policies, these countries are taking full control of their own security. They are building a defense force that is not only stronger in numbers but unified in purpose, protecting African people, not foreign interests. The AES has already created joint military operations and coordinated patrols, and the transition to a federation will only deepen that integration. By consolidating their forces under one leadership, they eliminate duplication, build efficiency, and send a clear message: Africa can defend itself. And that's why foreign powers are so uncomfortable with this move. Because it exposes the lie that African security depends on Western protection. In fact, it shows the opposite. Diplomatically, the creation of a Sahel Federation will force the world to rethink its entire relationship with West Africa. No longer dealing with three smaller countries easily divided and influenced, global powers will now have to negotiate with a larger, more unified African state with clear positions and coordinated foreign policy. The Sahel Federation can leverage its size and strategic importance to demand fairer trade deals, more respectful diplomatic relations, and more balanced partnerships. The days of divide and rule are ending. With one voice, the Sahel will speak louder. And with one policy, it will defend its interests more powerfully. This also means that hostile measures, like sanctions, political isolation, or media smear campaigns, will be harder to apply, because the Federation's unity will act as a shield. And globally, many other nations, especially in Asia, Latin America, and even parts of Europe, are watching with curiosity and admiration. Because what the Sahel is doing is not just bold, it is smart. It is strategic. And it is long overdue. Culturally, this federation is a homecoming. The people of these three nations share languages, religions, customs, and ancestral ties that long predate colonialism. The borders that currently divide them were never natural, they were imposed. Families were split. Communities separated. Trade disrupted. Unity was the default before colonization, and now it is being restored. As this new country forms, cultural exchange will flourish. Regional identity will strengthen. And Pan-African pride will grow, not just in symbols and slogans, but in actual daily life. One educational system. One media ecosystem. One national story. This is how identities are built. Not through foreign models, but through shared struggle and shared victory. The youth of the Sahel, who have been hungry for purpose and leadership, now have a movement they can believe in. This isn't about erasing differences between the three nations. It's about building something bigger together, something powerful enough to survive in a global system that was never designed to see Africa succeed. And finally, politically, the Federation is a warning to corrupt leaders across the continent. It shows that when governments work for their people, the people respond with loyalty, sacrifice, and energy. Ibrahim Traore, Assimi Goïta, and Abdurrahmane Chiani have not been perfect, but they have put sovereignty first, and the people see it. This federation is not just about statecraft, it's about trust. For decades, African governments were tools of foreign agendas, implementing neoliberal policies that kept their people poor and divided. But the Sahel is rewriting that script. It's saying, our power comes from the people, not Paris. If they stay on this path, transparent, accountable, and Pan-African, the Federation could last generations. If they fall into the same traps of personal power and foreign dependency, the dream could die. But for now, hope is alive. The world may not like it. Some African elites may resist it. But the people of the Sahel have chosen unity, and history is on their side.
All right, that is it, ladies and gentlemen. Let me get on out of here and do my last comment. There's a lot that we covered a lot today, as I always do, and I say we. Sometimes my buddy be on, but the idea is still the same: unity, 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 unity. That's the answer. Mixed in with a common sense and self-dignity. The answer is right there, and it's been in America. It's been there 150 fucking years. And you mean to tell me nobody sees this shit? Nobody don't know about the 1866 Civil Rights Act and what it means for black people? That's our hate bill. We don't need a fucking hate bill. We don't. We've had it since 1860s. But the elite amongst us, I guess, Jesse Jackson, Al Sharpton, you name it, are paid to keep that down and allow white men to get over and get over and get over and get over and do what they want to do what they want to do what they want to do. We see this every day happening for innocent black men and women and kids being shot and killed. That's the violation of your civil rights, niggas. Enforcement acts, my brothers, my sisters, that's what it is. It stops all of this bullshit, hemming and humming and sliding from side to side and foot to foot. I pray and I hope that Mayor Owen from Camilla, Georgia, with a population of 5,000 people, will get his ass in order and call the Department of Justice and the FBI to do their fucking job. It's not if they want to do it. They're mandated to do it. That's what was pissing a lot of white men off in the 1860s and 70s that formed the KKK and hate groups and stuff like that. Because they found a way, if they can get around the Civil Rights Act 1866 and Enforcement Act, which they did, they threatened the National Guard to stand down, and all hell broke loose after that. So this is not something very hard to understand. There was no need for protesting, marching for civil rights. You had the motherfucker. You're an American just like anybody else and everybody else. They just can't do what they want to do when they want to do it, how they want to do it. Everything that is happening can be stopped cold and dead in its tracks. I find it amazing that you niggas don't want to face the reality. Real simple. Find you a good. If I don't get to it first with my brother, then you need to find a good civil rights attorney who knows what the fuck they're talking about. Because I'm not an attorney. And I know this simple fact. A lot of you are just scared ass fucking niggas in America. Scared of what? Nothing. But those days are over, man. This is a new day, a new line on a new chapter and a new book. And our hands are writing that book for the sake of our children. And so when they become adults and are ready to step into the path of our ancestors who are beyond great, they will begin to know and understand what we've been saying all along. The power with you has always been like that and will always be like that. Ain't no white man running the motherfucking shit but his fucking mouth. Period. I can guarantee you, if y'all don't beat me to it, we're going to win, my brother and I. And we're going to turn all of America upside down on its head. I'm here to tell you. Real simple. There was nobody. King didn't need to die. Malcolm didn't need to die. Emmett Till didn't need to die. You know what I mean? Medgar Evers didn't need to die. There was no need for no Brown versus the Board of Education. You know what I mean? All that bullshit. All he had to do was to use the 1866 Civil Rights Act and the Enforcement Act. The Department of Justice must do their fucking job. That's why it was created. And the FBI must do their job. And the National Guard must do their fucking job. It is mandated by the Constitution. This ain't no motherfucking joke that I'm just talking out my ass because it sounds good. I'm telling you what you niggas need to do in America, of what you're not doing. Well, that's me for me. I'm tired. That's me. I think I done slept off or slipped out for a second or two while I was doing this. And but I'm tired, man. But I will keep the fire lit. And until next week, for the next 24/7, 365, stay black and fuck all white folks. I will see you guys next week.